We are live. Welcome to the Sunday service. We are back live this beautiful Sunday. The kettle is on, as some people are saying. Already we have some in there. I've got a light. I got a light, a proper LED light, which of course is bought by your donations, which is absolutely fantastic. Thank you very much to everybody who donates to this the whole time. Every week they put money into the pot, which is absolutely brilliant. And of course to all the guys who turn up every single week, we have a live meetup, which has been brilliant down in Midway. We've done 2 meetups in Midway. The last one being absolutely gigantic. Loads of people dropping in, dropping out, and people just coming into the place. It was absolutely brilliant last time. I'm hoping you can all make it to the next one. We haven't sorted out a date for the next one. If you haven't joined our Facebook page, that's where we sort out who, what, where and when. We don't really use it for a lot else, but we do put up some information there, which I saw this morning that Nissan are moving or are creating the X-Trail now in Japan from now on, instead of doing it in Solihull in England, where they have a large Nissan factory. Been there for generations. I've been in it. It's quite nice. The people are lovely, of course. The people of Birmingham, Manchester and all that area, Midlands in America, in England, sorry, not America. Absolutely gorgeous place. Glad to see it's all alright. I know I just ran there just a tiny bit early because I wanted to make sure it all worked. It all seems to be working, which is good. Like I say, I bought this light. I got this little, I can't even show you, I can't even turn around. It's a little LED light. It's really, really good. Got from money donated by you guys here. Because it gets very dark here as the service goes on. It gets very dark. So you guys listen on podcasts who do this while running. And I have to admit, I got multiple emails last week because we only had a half an hour. There's these loads of people, John and Sean and Patrick, who work in the UK, live in Ireland, who are going through Brexit really badly at the moment. They use this as a podcast for when they're flying over in the morning. So it's a 2-hour sort of thing. It's really good. Welcome to those who are joining us already. James Dunn, Eric Rochford, Joe Lyons, Cross is here, Sean McCabe is here, Aaron Bell, Stephen Carney, Peter Dolan, David Harmon, good God, Corbin. How many people are here? The Butcher, real life. It's absolutely brilliant. It's great to have you all here. Click the like button, please, you wouldn't mind, just because the more you click that, the more YouTube pays attention and shares this out to other people who might be interested in watching it. It is, of course, a car chat show. You can chat about anything you want. Some people chat amongst themselves in the chat here. Other people ask me really technical questions or really difficult questions. Hopefully I'll get a few difficult ones. That's always good. But today we're trying to talk as much as we can about electric, petrol, PHEV, hydrogen, whatever the fuel source is that's coming next. I've had some really angry letters from users. I've also had really angry letters, or let's just say letters of correction from car companies, not expecting me quite so harsh about their cars, or possibly talking about the fact that the car isn't just an electric car you get all excited about. There has to be a bloody car first, right? That's how that works. It has to be a car that transports people around the place, which is why I'm quite hard on them. But we'll have a glance through some of the questions. Joe Lyons says 10 minutes is just enough time to grab a coffee and plate up a few chocolate biscuits and make sure they're nice ones. See, Joe, that's what you got to do. You got to get your stuff together, bring it over to the table, sit down, put the feet up, have a nice I have a nice little cup here as well, of course, a cup of coffee to go with it, which is good. Sean McCabe, afternoon. Aaron Bell, afternoon. Stephen Carney, good man, happy Sunday. It is. Peter Dolan's here. David Hoffman, hi Bob, good to see you, good man. David Harmon, apologies. DS, happy Sunday Bob, from all the crew in Carlo. Good to have you in Carlo. It's good stuff to be here. Corbin, great stuff. Stephen Carney says, sorry, couldn't make the last meet. I had to work in the RDS holiday show. I got a request the last time to actually to make a car show, to actually do a proper show, an event, invite all the car companies there to bring their wares. That's kind of developing. I'm going to need assistance with that, and that's a really big thing. Dealing with 20-25 car places that would bring vehicles to something like that. I'm looking for exotics, and then we're looking for locations and dates and stuff as well. Possibly this year, don't know. Maybe RTS has already put their hand up and went, you could do it here. I didn't know I was that big, and I didn't know the Sunday service is that big, but it seems to be there's a bit of a grow there, a bit of a desire there for an actual car show to be put on. So that might or might not happen. We'll see. I know I am speaking at a couple of shows this year. I know one of them is going to be in the RDS, a show that's there about cars, about the future of cars and things. I'm also speaking in my local library here. There's a couple of other places that asked me to do local talks about tech, about future, about cars, about transport, evolving transport and what's going to be in the future. So you will, if you see my name on a poster or something on an email or whatever, I don't even know where I'm talking, to be honest with you. I just say yes to everything and see what happens. I'm making a film tomorrow about the Irish Car of the Year winners, so that's happening too. I've delayed the Audi Q8 video for those who are waiting for it, because the audio from the boot bit of it, where I'm examining the boot, is not there. It's just not there. The film is all there, but the audio is not. I'll sort it out today if I can. The Butcher IRL says, hi Bob, managed to get in early looking for getting an Outlander PHEV 15 or 16 only, putting me off as a 2-litre petrol and the weight. What about MPG? Remarkably, the Outlander outgoing one, the one you're talking about, the 15 or 16 one, is vastly different than the current model of the Outlander. Both to drive, the engine, the gearbox, the chassis, just about everything got an overhaul. So they are vastly different cars to drive and own. I got a lot of complaints about the old Outlander from users. I thought it was an okay car, but maybe longevity-wise it wasn't that good. So bear that in mind when you're looking at it. Getting a PHEV might be saving on tax. You might end up spending it all on just making the car run properly. I had no problem with the older Outlander. I thought it was a pretty good car. That is just a tiny bit bright, that light. But I think the new Outlander is really spot on. Absolutely gorgeous. A really nice car to drive. A little bit old-fashioned interior, but I think once you get beyond that, you'll be fine with it. But MPG-wise, depends on how you drive it. Like all M yokes, the harder you drive them, faster you want to get places, the worse that MPG becomes every single time, without fail. It gets worse and worse and worse every time. So very much depending on how you drive it. If you're hard on it, it'll be hard on you. Minsk has arrived. Happy Super Bowl Sunday. Go Rams. Super Bowl used to be live on television in Ireland. I remember the first time Super Bowl was streamed here in Ireland and on the television. It was to behold. In fairness, it was very good. Not so good anymore. We played rugby yesterday and lost against England. Congratulations, England played an absolutely blinder game yesterday. And I like rugby. I don't follow it all the time. A few of the Irish rugby team be friends of mine. Or I would have known them or met them over the years as well. So they're nice guys. Even the younger guys would know what they're doing. But yesterday they didn't look ready yesterday for some reason. England looked like they came to win, and they really set about it from the moment they started playing. And Ireland made some really straightforward mistakes in the rugby, which was just ordinary ones. We'll recover through the year. The second year of Grand Slam is off, but we'll see. We'll see as the time goes on. Anthony Foley, the X-Trail was never built in the Sunderland factory. Bob, was only ever built in Japan. Yeah, I saw that as well. But it is, when you start looking at what car companies are doing, how they're shifting their stock and where they're going to build things and where they're not going to build things, you can see there is a transition away from the insecurities of what's happening in Britain right now. They have reduced their factory force in so many different ways, and they've moved people from offices to other offices elsewhere in Europe and stuff. So there's a little bit going on there in the background that's not good. I've been in Sunderland a couple of times. Really good little factory. There are lovely people in there. Really nice. The factory, the people who run the factory, and the lads working on the line and stuff. It's a lovely place to hang out. A huge employer in Sunderland. It'd be an awful shame if anything really happened there. But it's kind of weird to see X-Trail being shifted about, or Nissan's being shifted about. It's a bit odd there. Charles Costa has joined us. Good man, Charles. Raymond Gray says, how's your back? It's not disappeared. It's fixing. I went for the first run in a few weeks yesterday. Actually, my 10-year-old daughter came with me yesterday for that same run. We had a good time. Lovely. We did 8k. It felt okay. Relatively on trouble. Still a bit sore though. Still not quite right. But I'm getting back there. Doing some strength training, conditioning, and doing Pilates. Believe it or not. If any back trouble at all, do some Pilates. Just get on the floor. There's a little girl called Yogi. I can't remember what she's called. She's a little Asian girl, American girl, but she looks Asian. She's here on YouTube. You can look her up. She's a really good little Pilates instructor. She's tiny and makes it look like it's really easy when actually it's really hard. But anyway, it's good. Greg Price, come on. I'm fine, Greg. How are you? Damien Cleary from Mayo. Congratulations on being from Mayo. It's great to have Mayo people here as well. We get people from all over the world, very rarely Mayo, in fairness to you. Down in Galway 2 weeks ago. which is in Mayo, in an electric car, the Kona. Drove all the way to Galway and back again. Had a charge in the middle of a little short 20-minute burst. It's quite nice though. Mark Arundel is here. That's a good last name. Zdenko has arrived. Good man. Zdenko is here every week. He's a supporter and he's a great chap to have around. Kevin McCarthy. Hi Bob. Sundays now have a real purpose. I know everybody. The amount of times I was trying to put up the Sunday service, is quite hard to make an event thing here on YouTube. So you go into the back end of YouTube and you create an event and you put up the lists and what time it's going to start at. But you have to think 2 p.m. on YouTube isn't always 2 p.m. in Ireland. It's actually like 3 p.m. So they kind of do this GMT plus 1 thing. And sometimes they're right, sometimes they're wrong. So you have to be very careful. You don't set it up to go at 2 o'clock. Like in France, which is 1 o'clock over here, so or something like that. It's an oddball. Really busy year coming up from. I will be doing a Sunday service every week from now on, but really, really, really busy year coming up. There's a lot of launches on. I'm going down to Spain to test the new 3 Series and the Z4, I think, as well. I'm going to Lisbon to test something else. Oh, Mazda 3. And I'm going to test a new Lexus as well over in Barcelona, I think. They're just ones I can remember right now off the top of my head. New Peugeot 508 is launching in a couple of weeks' time as well. I'm going to be doing a road trip in that from Dublin to Cork. So I might film that. And we're filming on Wednesday with Paul to do a new series of things about called The Garage, that's on the way as well. So hopefully with a new series, we're kind of training, we're playing at the moment, trying to figure out which one we're going to do. Charles Costa says fala I don't know what that's in a different language. Mince, with auto start it's hard on an engine to let the car idle from cold for several minutes. Mechanic told me that it can starve the top end of oil and engine hasn't rev periodically. Auto start, you mean the stop start facility? No, when a car is cold it will just leave itself turned on. On the stop start. Stop start only operates under certain conditions. So when you come up to a junction, the car is perfectly warm, it's not very hard on air conditioning, the heating isn't on full blast, it'll cut off and it'll come to a pause. But other than that, it doesn't really cut in for any other reason. When you turn on the car first and in the morning it's stone cold, it will just stay on and remain on for the rest of the time. So you shouldn't have any problem with that. But now, the problem I would have with stop-start is the effort that has to be put in by the starter motor or by the system, the electric start that gets the engine rolling again. That's very hard for an engine to continue turning on and off and on and off and on and off in constant city traffic. So I would rather see a point where we figure out whether stop-start actually makes any difference whatsoever to fuel consumptions or CO2. It would if it was remaining stopped for a long time. I know the estimate is about 90 seconds. That's the only point where it actually starts to make any sense whatsoever. My God, there's 90 of you watching right now. Will everybody click the like button? Thank you very much. The numbers are gone up on my channel by a giant amount. Too many comments, I can't keep up. A giant amount. I've welcomed a new nearly 2,000 subscribers since the beginning of January. It's been a huge month, and we're literally just drifting in now. This is the 2nd of February, so it's been a huge explosion of new subscribers and new viewers. The last video got 20,000 views in a week or something. It's close to viral at that point. It was really starting to pick up. I think it's because I'm actually telling you the truth about cars. I've always done that, but I think right now people are really seeking out actual reviews from actual journalists. They're sick of these people who turn up and just because they like cars think they know everything about cars. I'm a car enthusiast, I know everything. They don't really. It's very hard. It takes a lot of experience. It really does. You kind of have to get your bum on a couple of 100 seats before you realise each one is crap or good or different or whatever it is. So I think people are genuinely seeking out the truth sayers, the journalists, the ones that are actually doing reviews, and that's where I suppose I've always position myself as much as possible. Eric Crosser says, really like the electric car series. Many people do. There's more to come on that one, by the way. We get to see more rounder review of everyday usage. Lots of factors for everyone to consider, as it's still not the stage where one size fits all. That is true. I mean, look at the Kona. The range is phenomenal on the car. You don't even think about charging the battery. Charged it maybe twice or 3 times in the whole week I had it, and then at least one of those charges was unnecessary because I was just doing it to see how it worked. But at the same time, it's such a compromise of the car. The back seat's so small, the boot's kind of tiny, the plastic bits on both sides of the boot. It does everything right in one way, and then just it's not a good car. So a car has to be able to carry my family, work in the boot. I should be comfortable in it. Should be able to cover a certain amount of mileage without feeling uncomfortable. There's all kinds of things a car has to do before you consider how it's powered. A lot of people in Ireland and the UK, I'd imagine, buy a car based on its how much tax you're going to pay. That's how we seem to think about it, right? So electric cars are the lowest tax band, so there's your first hurdle gone over. But if it's not a particularly good car, like the i3 is a great car to drive, lovely car to own, but those back doors drive me nuts. The boot is a bit weird. Kona is kind of similar, although it has normal back doors, it's quite small in the rear, so they've got problems. And still my favourite out of the bunch is the e-Golf, the Volkswagen e-Golf. The range isn't up to the standard of the Leaf or of the Kona, but it's a proper 5-door hatchback. You forget it's an electric car after a while. Okay, so you have to hunt for electricity the whole time, that's it. Like I say, I've had some letters from car manufacturers. I don't really mind. They can email. I've always got an opinion. Car manufacturers just want to sell cars. I don't want to get in their way of selling cars, but I want to make sure you as a consumer get the right car for you, and that's kind of where I am. So it doesn't really matter whether they don't like it or not. I'm not here to make them sell more cars. Cross says Hyundai Ireland did a terrible job with the Irish spec of the Kona EV. That's correct. The UK spec has a bigger screen, adaptive cruise control. The powertrain is always going to make the car pricey. Yes, that is an unfortunate factor for Hyundai Ireland, because Hyundai Ireland is a distributor rather than being Hyundai Ireland. As a lot of the car companies are distributors, but unlike Volkswagen Ireland, who take all of their instruction from Volkswagen Germany, Hyundai Ireland don't take instruction from anybody. They can do their own specs. And so what's happened is the Kona hasn't got LED lamps on the front or the rear, or even inside for that matter, and there's no adaptive cruise control. There's a lot of kit that should be on the car isn't. It does have heated seats, which is good, but the range is brilliant. But the problem that I have with electric cars at the moment is they're too bloody expensive. I mean, they're just expensive. Those €5,000 grants or €10,000 grants that are on them right now make them seem sort of affordable. But if you take away those grants, which the government can't indefinitely do grants, right? There has to come a point where the government go, hang on a second, we're just funding car purchases here. They will eventually pull those grants off. When they do, you're looking at a car that starts at 25 grand, like a Leaf, 23, 25 grand, somewhere in there, now costs 30 grand, just for the basic one, or 35 grand, depending on how you got your grants. That's not cheap. I mean, that's fairly expensive at this stage. That's a good point. Cross says, why nickel and dime the spec and make the car less attractive? They have to some degree. I won't say the nickel and dime, but they certainly have made it feel more of an affordable car. I won't say cheap car, but an affordable car for sure. They could have done so much more with it. Nero EV is the better car with the Kona's powertrain, more roomy interior, boot space, and even space for spare tires, slightly more efficient at motorbike speeds. The only problem I have with the Nero is it's not as good looking. It doesn't look as nice, not as attractive looking out of the box. Very good car, much bigger inside, feels like a proper 5-door hatchback, feels like an estate actually for the size of the car. So I'm hoping that Kia get it right. Now Gillian, who was running the Kia marketing campaign for a while, she's finished there, so it's gone back to Aidan, who's doing the marketing manager there. So we'll see how he broaches the subject of electric cars. Maybe he has less of an insight, more of an insight. That can often depend on the people behind the scenes who are doing the job there. Kia has always been incredibly professional when it comes to putting the cars on the fleets and making sure everyone gets a spin of them. They make sure everything happens and everyone gets their even spin. So I'm hoping to get an early go in the Nero EV. I'm looking for an early go in the Audi e-tron, or e-tron, as I heard Jeremy Clarkson call it the other day on the Grand Tour. If I'm been watching the Grand Tour, it's been the Columbia Special was really good, but the other episodes are pretty weak. But what else is coming? The I-Pace. Jaguar Ireland have only got one I-Pace in the country. It's basically sold out from Jaguar, right? And so they've only got one for everyone to have a go of. And anybody who's interested in the I-Pace will have a go at that one I-Pace. Same I-Pace I'm waiting for. So everybody's waiting for a spin. Before they know it, everyone will have had a spin and everyone will have bought something else, because it's not cheap, right? It's not cheap, and supply seems to be really poor on it for whatever reason, whether that's down to battery or whatever, I don't know. But we'll see when that comes. So they're the ones I'm waiting for have a go in. I will have a go eventually. I'm not too worried about them. At the moment, they're ones that I wanted to go, I've had a go. That's the important part. Jesus, that's a good. Do you know how many people are watching now? Like, there's 106 people watching this moment. What other show gets that amount of people in one shot live on YouTube streaming? It's crazy. You can sponsor this show if you want. Just throwing an ad there. Oh, by the way, someone mentioned the other day I have a store. I do. If you haven't got an ad blocker on, there is actually a Teespring store where you can buy some t-shirts and hoodies and stuff if you want. I have no control over the price. I'm not asking you to buy them. YouTube gave it out to me. Teespring started emailing me going, you've got a channel's big now, the channel's getting big, get yourself some merch, man. So I did. I stuck the merch channel on. If you want to buy it, you can. If you don't worry about it. I'd rather, obviously, direct support is much better for the channel. So there's a link for Patreon, there's a link for PayPal, there's whatever you want, or Super Chat right here if you want to give through direct onto the stream here, you can do through Super Chat. It's brilliant. It's all massively appreciated. It all goes into kit and equipment, which is why this is little Sunday service has gotten bigger and bigger and bigger with lights and mics and cameras and stuff that came from Crossite. I'm using that camera still, really brilliant camera. So all of that sort of stuff, that's all come from you guys. So that's how the channel survives. That's how I get to sit in the back of a car and go, this is too small, and it's crap. Raymond Gray says, Bob, on your test of the new Dacia Duster, you failed to mention how much the sound insulation has improved with the last model. Do you sell them, Raymond? Do you work in a Dacia dealership? It's true. Dacia do good things at that segment of the market. I think they're really clever in what they do, in the very tiny budget these guys have to work with, in the ability to have to build their cars in Romania. I was in Romania last year with Mazda. It's it's a tough country. You can tell it's a country that's always been caught by Turkey on one side and by the rest of Europe on the other side, really hammered it home. It's a beautiful, beautiful place, but there's still horses and carts, wooden carts, women with little headscarves on them leading these horses along the road. It's still there, and if you look at Ireland, parts of Ireland, there's some of that here, but that's only because that's through choice. These people are doing through need. There is an element of that there, and I love what Dacia does at that end of the market. They do a great job. Renault Ireland have pounded away on Dacia for as hard as they can. I'm hoping this year we'll see Dacia only dealerships coming. So they've done a brilliant job, but they're at a segment of the market that if you're currently driving a 2018, 2017 car, if it's not already a Dacia Duster, if something further up the food chain, you're probably not going to look at Dacia. It appeals to people who are coming from an older car, who maybe doesn't have sat-nav, doesn't have Bluetooth or something in the car, and they're moving up and they want something sensible, or current Dacia owners. I believe the majority of people who buy Dacia stay within the Dacia range. So it's got that kind of light. It does a really good job. And I do like what Dacia does, wants to keep the roof rack off the roof, which was what was wrong with my older review of the Dacia first. It's an awful noise from the top of it. But sound insulation has been improved, Raymond Grace, for sure. I'm guessing you work at a Renault or a Dacia dealership. I do get a lot of dealers, don't get me wrong. Guards, doctors, architects, car dealers, people who work within the car industry and trade. I am like... I get it. I know I get the little text messages. I get the little messages here and there along the way. People going, don't mention it, Industrial Delight. Yeah, I won't mention PCP this week, right? Stephen Carney. Bob, what are your thoughts on the Passat GTE? I've driven one before. Seems nice to drive with both motors. It has decent performance. Electric range fairly short, as is the case with all PHEVs. PHEVs are all desperately short. They fit a certain unique situation. I think if you work and live within a city and you commute every day is 15 to 30 kilometres and you have a place to plug it in, if you can tick all those boxes, a PHEV works for you. If you live, as I do, somewhere like Portlaoise and often work in Dublin, you'll struggle to make a PHEV work properly. It's a hybrid a lot of the time. Even if you're clever with the buttons you press and you press all the things to save the energy and save your charge, you're still going to be forking out. I would suggest that a hybrid is going to give you the same sort of fuel economy, such as a Toyota Prius or the forthcoming Toyota Corolla hybrids and all those kind of cars that are there. They're going to give you that same sort of saving a PHEV does, unless you fit those unique little points. Passat GT is a very classy version of a plug-in hybrid, so you're at that point of the market where it's a little bit classier, a little bit nicer, better branding, feels better, a lot of kit in it, very comfy. Passats always are. Passats have to be. They're very long range runs. Cross says the newer Outlander is auto cycle. 2.4 litre petrol it is. Infotainment is atrocious. It is. But it does have Apple CarPlay, so it's fine. The screen is terrible. You'll annoy every EV driver in 20 kilometers you park anywhere near a rapid charger with PHEV. I already did that. I kind of like the idea of annoying them, because for whatever reason, PHEV drivers think they're better than people who drive the petrol cars. Petrol drivers think they're better than people who drive diesel cars. Electric people think they're better for everybody than everybody. That's the way it is. They're pious, nearly. Some of them are like evangelists on the other end of electric cars. And I get it. We need those evangelists out there. We also need that realistic point of we all have to share the earth, whether we share it through PHEV or we're making a step from one thing to the next. Maybe electric cars just doesn't work for somebody. Maybe they have to have PHEV. But if you charge up a PHEV properly, you always get crap when you do it on the street, and yet it's free. Start paying for it, and then nobody got a God-given right to PHEV parking spaces or electric parking spaces. So, if you have an electric car and a PHEV is electric, you plug it in, you can drive for 30, 50 kilometres on electric, then you're entitled to park there. So, disgruntled or not, the worst part that I've seen so far is going up to an electric car, going up to a fast charger and finding 2 Nissan Leafs there and one parked behind them, and they're all Generation 1 Nissan Leafs, absolutely hoovering up all electricity. Corbin 70/7. The fact that you are so matter of fact that you're just being yourself, talking about something you love, which happens to be cars in this case, in the fact that the reason you are appealing, my friend G. Thanks very much. I do try to give as unbiased, no happy chappy crap, none of that stuff about the car. I know there's a lot of people now in Ireland trying to get on the YouTube ladder of reviewing cars, and I'm sure some of them will find their own version of success along the way. Generally speaking, I find most other places, very few actually review the car. They give you this overall idea what the car is like, but they never really give their opinion. Usually because those people work for an organisation. That organisation doesn't allow them to have that opinion. There'd only be a handful of reviewers that I would trust the opinion of. When I hear them talk about a car, I go, that's obviously the real opinion of the thing. A lot of journalists will write one thing in a newspaper or in a magazine or on YouTube or whatever it is, and then you meet them in real life and go, God, that car was crap, and they didn't even put the thing in they never said that. It's just saying that behind the scenes they're saying it, but they're not saying it to anyone really. Derek Meads: hi Bob, is there an all new Clio on the way? It looks like a facelift to me, but will the Megane be having the same upgrade? The Clio that is forthcoming, when you say all new, so what I classify as an all new car is when it gets a new chassis, probably a new engine, either a new engine or a very updated version of the engine have, new gearboxes and all new metal on the outside. That would be an all new car. So if the chassis remain the same and the engine remain the same, they're just changing the outside, that's what I would class, personally speaking, as a refresh. It might, from internal marketing reasons, be an all new car, but actually it's not really, unless it has a new chassis and gearbox and engine stuff. That's a new car because it'll have new suspension, new brakes, new everything. That's a new car. But the Clio that's on the way looks like a facelift to me as well, I think. I don't think it's getting a new chassis, but there will be new engines. I believe Nissan and Renault are doing cool things with Mitsubishi at the moment, getting some new engine stuff. Renault are the development crowd, and Nissan and Mitsubishi take what has been developed by Renault. So Renault tends to get the newest kit. So if you're looking for a car, either Nissan, Renault, or Mitsubishi, or even Dacia for that matter, you'll find that Renault has all the new tech. Nissan lead the way on electric stuff, I think, and Mitsubishi share some of their electric stuff with Nissan and Renault. It's a complicated way around, but the Clio doesn't look like a brand new Clio. The Megane is not going to be a brand new Megane. They've just done that 3 years ago, brand new, all from the ground up. Smithy says, afternoon. Thanks, afternoon, Smithy. Welcome to you. 135 people watching. You're so good. Click the like button. Go for it. Hit that like button in the face, or whatever Jacksepticeye says. He's from up the road in Westmeath, He doesn't live around here anymore. I met his mother, though. She's lovely. She was in Midlands 103 one day. She was interviewed there on air in Midlands 103, and I met her. She's really nice. I met Jack once as well at something. Before he was really big, I met him at something else. I remember what it was. Some event. He's a nice chap. Lovely chap. Far more famous than Late Late Show. Brenda Brady fan. Hello. Congratulations. He has a how symbol up there. Brian Cullen. Super Bowl used to be live on Channel 4, and now it's live on BBC tonight from 11:30pm. It used to be live on RTE right here in Ireland. Network 2, way back when, it used to be on live. I remember watching the first one, and that was before social media. So when you watch something like that, you watched it on your own, right? You didn't tweet about it. You just watched these things on your own. And the next day, you went to school and you went to work or whatever, and everybody talked about it. And the thing that everybody thought was the water cooler moment. But now, of course, the water cooler moment happens on Twitter. Twitter's a cesspool of self-righteous weirdos these days. Seriously. Anyway, sorry. I do stories here on YouTube, by the way. If you've got the YouTube app, there is a stories section of it. So once in a while, I do a story on YouTube if you want to have a look in there. It's like Instagram stories. I am on Instagram if you want. The links are in the comments down below. So under this, you'll find links to everything, including Instagram. So I do that. I usually do one beginning of the week showing you what car I'm picking up and how I'm doing it. Next week I'm in a Golf 1.5 TSI. It's my first drive, I think, of the new 1.5 TSI engine. So that's quite interesting. Looking forward to that. Looking to upgrade from driving my parents' car soon. Good man. I'll be doing 30,000 kilometers a year. Thinking about a 2008 Jetta 1.9 TDI or 08 Focus 1.9 TDCI. Do you have any suggestions? Run from the Focus. I wouldn't. That 1.8 TDCI is, as far as I'm aware, and from what I've seen of recalls and fixes and things, that Focus engine, no. That would be no. The 1.9 TDI from the Jetta, if that has had its recalls done, will be fine. If just check to make sure it's got all its service calls and recalls and all the lights are clear, you'll be fine. Jetta's a bit boring, a bit meh to drive, but that will drive the price down on the car. So what I mean is less desirable in the long run for people. People buy the Golf, not the Jetta. So if you can find a Jetta, you're going to be doing well. It's a little bit boring to drive, but it's pretty good. If you can get an automatic, it's actually alright because you get a DSG. It's fine. But I would, as good as the Focus is, the petrol ones are fine. The diesel ones are a bit, rough around the edges in that 1.8 TDCI. Hey Bob, anything interesting coming up on a press list for review? Not really. Pile of normal stuff for the next while, which is what I like. This time of the year, it's all about car sales. So we buy into the future, we sell into the past, is my own phrase. So they're selling cars that have come out last year. The new ones, the cool stuff comes kind of second half of the year where we get more interesting bits coming on. Stuff I'm trying to find gaps in my calendar. I'm booked till like June or something this year. Massive year for me in not just cars, but just a hugely busy year this year. But I'm trying to find space for the RAV4, the Corolla hybrids and all those cars. They're really hard to find spaces for. I think I have the 13th of April or something is the only time that I have free at the moment. It's pretty hard. The Atkinson cycle, sorry, yeah, you're right. I was wondering what auto cycle was, but yeah, Atkinson cycle, it's an Atkinson engine that's in the Outlander. Joe Lyons, one of two. My God, he had to make two tweets out of it, or two things out of it. Right, here we go. Interesting figures this week on electric cars have increased from less than 1% of the market. Before I read any more of that, I'll tell you now, when you're starting with sales of 50 to 100 and you're going to sales of about 500, it's very easy to sound like you've just jumped 700 or 800% in sales. And that sales is a technical word for registrations. Right? To predict a market, what happens is a car company puts an order in for a number of cars the year before it happens. So those cars were ordered back in November. They're being delivered today. They're counted as sales because they're registered by the car company to the dealerships. The dealerships count that as a sale in this month, but they're not necessarily sold until next month or until March or whatever. So there's a lot of muddling of the figures going on there as to what is a sale and whether any sales have actually really happened. But there is quite an increase. I was at the EV owners meetup last week, whatever it was. And that was a really good eye-opener. Lots of Hyundai Konas there, so everyone was waiting for longer range for sure. Anyway, right, we'll go back to Joe Lyons' messages here, right? Interesting figures on electric cars have increased from less than 1% of the market this year to 2.6% of the market share January, but no details of the type of cars, price or brand. Would love to see a percentage increase in middle luxury market share. I think once that starts to move, then EP will be serious option, but until then it only seems to be small runabouts, M2 CW, which is all very technical. Joe obviously works in the car industry, so they're technical terms, but basically what I was talking about, the luxury end of the market is not being taken care of in electric cars. That's where Audi are heading with the e-tron. That's where Tesla have always kind of lived. Although Tesla's trying to crawl back down into the Model 3 end of the market. They have a Model Y coming or something as well, which is like an SUV or small SUV, some whatever. I'm sure they'll get around to it eventually. I have to say, there's the electric car channel with Bobby Llewellyn on it. That's evangelist stuff, boys. That's just telling you this perfect future as if it's all going ahead according to plan. The majority of stuff they're showing currently, I watched the thing where a guy was putting batteries into a plastic thing inside a container and it was running a building. That's been going on for years. My mate in the 90s got a pile of truck batteries, hooked them all together in a plastic container, put them in a shed, and they run his heating in his house forever. And he's had solar panels for years. He's like a born again hippie, but he's been there since the 80s. This is not new tech, but they're showing it off as new. What's it called? The name of the channel? It'll come to me in a minute. The final something or other. No, it's not. It's Fully Charged. That's the name of it. Anyway, sorry, right, I digress. Frankie Quigley says, hi Bob from Mullingar. Mullingar, that's where Jacksepticeye is from, and Joe Dolan. Afraid to get rid of my diesel car. Rhyme for you. We're still afraid to get rid of my diesel car. Don't get rid of your diesel car. Hold on to it. Sure, what's going to happen? The worst. So what's going to happen now is people are terrified to buy a diesel. They're terrified to buy a petrol. They're terrified to buy electric. They're terrified to buy anything now because they don't know what's going to happen next. And here's 100% prediction, right? And you can take a clip of this if you want and play it back to me in 5 or 6 years' time, right? Diesel's not going anywhere for a good 5 to 10 years. I mean, nowhere. It's going to remain basically identical the way it is right now for the next 10 years. Petrol will remain the same way, but petrol will actually go a little bit further because there's a lot of investment happening right now behind the scenes. You don't see it, but behind the scenes to do things with petrol engines and petrol itself, the way petrol is made, because diesel can be 50% chemicals, right? So some of it is coming from the ground. The rest of it is just synthetics that are put into it to thin it out and make it go further, make it burn leaner, make it burn richer, whatever it is, right? Petrol has basically been petrol since forever. Petrol is just pulled up out of the ground, fired into a can. It's cleaned up, of course, obviously it's cleaned up, and some chemicals are added to make sure it is actually clean. But then it goes into your fuel tank and your car burns it. That's all that happens. It's a series of explosions under the engine, fires you along the road at the right speeds. That's basically what petrol is. Much more reliable than diesel. But as diesel is, there is nothing to replace diesel at the moment for the 50,000 kilometre a year person. There really isn't. You would have to be so doggedly persistent and make all of the changes and spend a lot of money on Hyundai Kona or Nissan Leaf 60 kilowatt or the Audi e-tron or the Jaguar I-Pace. You have to spend out that kind of money and get a home charging unit and get solar panels and get, there's a lot of stuff to go through to make that work for you. And then you find you've driven so far from home and something's not working and you can't get a charge. So at the moment, diesel is the only way forward for the higher range people. But I've been harping on about that for a good 5 to 10 years now, about diesel being missold to the wrong people who don't need it. So don't be feared of holding on to diesel or getting rid of your diesel. It's not going to change a damn thing in the near future. Hellhound, what a name. That is seriously like a butch name, I have to say. Hi Bob, what car would you choose for a car for life? It's not a very butch way of asking God. We won't do much mileage, and changing a car every 3 years just seems like a waste of money with depreciation and all. If you're going to hold on to something that you're just not ever going to get rid of, those cars are really, really hard to come by. And I'll tell you why. Everybody gets sick of a car eventually, right? But besides that, the maintenance costs, looking after, if you have to mind it like a child, you have to spend a lot of money on keeping the car on the road. And if you look at electric cars, they seem like the best option. And yet, I watched a video with that fella Bjorn, the kind of Asian dude from Northern Hemisphere, from Sweden or somewhere. And he's really good. Weird, but good. I find it hard to get used to the guy. But he was in a video with a Generation 1 Nissan Leaf. It only had 45% of its battery left or something after 6 or 7 years. Something had gone wrong there with the battery pack and things had died in it. So if you buy a Kona this year and 10 years from now you've only got half the battery left, that's just wrong. Like, that shouldn't happen. And besides it should not happen, I've never had a diesel or a petrol car do that, lose range over years. You just service it, still goes the same distance it always went. If I was looking to get a car today to hold on to forever, and I wasn't too worried about the tax or the things, that sort of stuff, I'd buy a big petrol engine car, a big one, a large one, maybe an Outland if you want a PHEV, but I prefer to buy a larger petrol engine car. Petrol engines will forever go as long as there's petrol in them, as long as there's oil in them, they will continue to go. If you can get a 1.6 or a 2 litre petrol, something like that, it's going to be older. It's not even going to be a modern car. You're going to have to buy something that's a few years old. My car is 12 years old. Never misses a beat there. Every day. This morning I was going off to Vicarstown to go do park run. So no problem at all. It's 12 years old. I barely opened bonnet that thing, I suppose, once a year at this stage. It's due an NCT soon, actually. It'll probably pass, though, I think. So there isn't really a good one to recommend for you, Hellhound. Sorry, not a particular brand. Right now, this minute, I would try and buy a petrol or a hybrid. Great things about Toyota Prius. I've had some brilliant stories from users who've bought 2008s. They're only bringing them in now to change a link underneath. It's the first thing they've done on the thing. So less maintenance is good, but it just depends on how you drive it. Muck Savage is another name that I thought I'd never have to say on this channel, but sure, there we go. Hi Bob, bought a new Skoda Karoq. Congratulations. Ordered the 1 litre with the rear camera, auto boot lid and a few other things. Got the car 2 weeks ago, went to tax the car and saw it was a 1.5. Well, that's odd. Have you paid the price of a 1 litre and ended up with a 1.5? Or did you pay the price of 1.5 all along? Something has probably gone wrong there. When a garage agreed to pay half of the extra value. How does this sound to you? I'd rather see you in a 1.5 litre than a 1 litre, right? But if the error is entirely the garage's fault, the garage should entirely pick up the price of it. See, there's the issue I have, right? If you went ahead and ordered all the car and you're very happy and it came and it's a 1.5 and that's a misorder by the garage, they have misordered the car entirely, right? So I would rather nail the garage. That's their fault. If you're not happy with it, you really wanted the 1 litre, you're perfectly entitled to return that car now and go, hang on, that's not what I ordered. It's not the car I ordered. It's a totally different engine. They're going to have to replace it. You're going to have to stiff them with it. Depends on how sticky you want to be. I prefer the 1.5 litre petrol engine to the 1 litre. That would be my, just for longevity wise. I think the 1 litre is under a lot of pressure in even a small car. When you put in a Karoq or a Kodiaq or something, it's a big car. So I would be a little bit weird about that one. But I would, if I was happy enough to hold on to 1.5, I would expect the garage to at least come all the way in the price difference between the two, because your tax has gone up. Your future value may have changed as well, depending if you buy on PCP. The guaranteed minimum future value is totally different. The engine is a critical component to the car, so bear in mind that if you don't mind, you want to hold on to it, you'd expect the garage to stump up the difference between the two. If you don't want to hold on to it and you wanted the 1 litre particularly, you're perfectly entitled to return it, because the order is entirely wrong. No matter what happens with the rest of the car, no matter if the whole 99% of the car is right and the engine's wrong, the engine is the biggest component. It's the only component going to matter when you're trading it in as well. Just remember that. Where were we? McDeezer 2011. Must be run out of usernames on YouTube, are they? Good afternoon, Bobby says. Good man. Hyundai registered 311 Kona EVs and Nissan registered 296 Leafs in January. Just remember that. That's the word to watch out for, is registered and sold. They're two different things. A car company can bring in 100 cars, register with the tax office 100 cars, and 100 license plates are issued for them. Those cars go out to the dealerships. They're sold throughout the next couple of months, maybe even 3 months, and they sit out the front of the garage till they're sold. But all those cars are in January registration dates, so it looks like we had a 700 and 800% increase in electric car sales, when actually they're just sitting in dealerships or sitting in a field, which often happens as well. Sitting up in MDL field, which is the other field in the country. Sean and Neil Bud, all car launches should be in whatever EU country has the worst roads, so they can be tested on potholes and undulating surfaces instead of glassy smooth. There's 2 reasons why car companies pick places like Lisbon, Spain, Italy, Sardinia, wherever, right? One good reason is sun, because they're guaranteed a certain amount of at least temperature or dry weather at certain points of the year. So the further south you move in Spain, the more guaranteed dry weather you're going to get. So they're after that as well. 2, the roads in Spain. Some of the roads in Spain are absolutely phenomenal, and I mean, they're just gorgeous glass smooth things to drive on. And of course, the car company wants to show the car off in the best light. And the other third point would be, it's a lot cheaper for everyone to fly into a hub airport from all over the world than it is to fly the car to the journalist. So everyone in Ireland can fly directly to Barcelona or directly to Lisbon or directly to Paris or directly wherever it is. So and the same for most of the world, can fly almost directly there. So it's much easier to have it in a place like Barcelona, where it's a hub airport, or Munich, or Frankfurt, or one of those massive hub airports that got out in that direction. That's the easy way to do it. But I regularly go off route. I don't. They just give you a route. You can go along if you want to. You can go where you like. You're driving. You don't have to follow it. And I regularly don't. Brian Dowling, heard you mention a Peugeot 508 recently, and finally saw one in the metal on the road. Striking looking car. Really looking forward to seeing what Peugeot has next in other models. They have a lot going on at the moment. They're going to be concentrating quite heavily on the 508, particularly 508 Estate. I quite like that. There is also the Peugeot Rifter, which is being launched at the same time, which, okay, that's a mammy mobile. There is a version of it that I really like the look of, to put a tent on the roof, and they've got this kind of plastic fairing and stuff. That's quite kind of cool to see. But the 508 is going to be a vitally important car for Peugeot moving into the future. I really do think so, because they're not competing so heavily in that small SAV, SUV market. SAV is sports activity vehicle versus sports utility vehicle, right? Because one is tough, one is just for putting surfboards on. Derek Meads, your thoughts on the Lexus IS300H, please, Bob. I really like the look of the car, but the interior is quite dated now. What do you think? You're right. The car drives very well. The ultra efficient hybrid system that Lexus and Toyota have, and make no mistake, people give Toyota a hard time for being boring cars, but make no mistake, they are the experts in hybrid technology. They've been developing it for a very long time. They know what they're doing, as does Lexus. So the technology behind that is absolutely brilliant, but they are always let down by their interior. They have funny switchgear and strange ways of moving little knobs around to make things happen on what should have been a touchscreen. They can be hard to live with, Derek, but I know the people who buy a Lexus stay with Lexus. I've never really met someone, even my best mate, her father has a Lexus and is Lexus mental and will not be convinced out of anything else. So there is Lexus owners, and then there's people who desire the look of a Lexus, and then there's people who actually want to buy a Lexus. But I like the IS300. I think it's a lovely car to drive. It really is a smooth beast of a yoke to drive along. It's worth coming on to Sunday service if you can, because there's a few Lexus owners turns up to that. You can talk amongst yourselves, but I'd have no problem recommending IS300H, but it does take a lot of getting used to on the interior. There's 155 people watching. Every once in a while I look down at the little number in the corner, and it freaks me out, because we started with like 4. First Sunday service I ever did, I'd said it was a maximum was 10, and some black lady came in to give out that it wasn't mass. I still remember that. It was deadly. She was so like black American. When she typed, it was brilliant, funny. It was like 4 or 5 people here at the time, and maybe laughed for a good 15 minutes. But now here we are with 155 people watching this very second, so it'll be a good 2,000 people watching today. It'll be funny. But anyway, back on to where we should be. So click the like button if you're just after landing here. For God's sake, click the like button. Click the subscribe button if you've never been here before and you like the idea of doing the Sunday service. If you click the little bell, what happens is on your phone you get a little notification when I go live. That's all that happens. It's not like you ringing a bell to tell the whole world that you subscribe to Bob Flavin or something. You can also look back to my back catalogue of videos. Don't look too far back, because I look like a child the further far back again. This video YouTube thing has aged me terribly. But you can see for the last while I've done electric car series. There's lots of series coming up as well, little bits that I'm breaking down into smaller pieces. First time driver cars are coming up as well. There's all kinds of things. We're going to do some classic cars. I've arranged a few classic cars now. I'm trying to get like 6 or 7 together so I can call it a series, and do the history on them. And there's a new series coming up called The Garage, which I'm just developing with a mate of mine called Paul McGann, who's a master barber, which is why my hair looks good these days, because he's cutting my hair. But anyway, he's doing my hair. He's doing my makeup as well if he wants. I don't wear makeup. Afternoon, Bob, says Dub Cub 89. Command Sean and Ilbud. Having a Bitcoin wallet makes you look smart, hence the extra subs. Do I have I have a Bitcoin wallet. That's true, I do. I've taken the thing off because I can't be bothered with it, but I do have. I don't know how much is in Probably nothing the way Bitcoin went. Maminsk says, I bought some new winter floor mats and they really make the car stink of rubber. Any suggestions for eliminating the odour? I aired them out and now thinking Febreze. If they're the rubber backed ones, there is a thing called Dash. You'll find it in Halfords. It's like a spritzer spray. It's not aerosol. It's a spritzer one. And it's called Dash Shine. Dash Shine, that's the stuff. On the back of the mat, if you spray the stuff on and wipe it off and then leave it out backwards up towards the daylight, it dries off and it leaves a lovely little hint of a smell on it. If you really want to, the matted side, the carpet side of it, you can use STP Show and Shine, it's called. You can use that on the outside. You can actually leave it on. It's a little bit sticky is the problem for a little bit till it dries off, but it does get rid of that stench of rubber. I know the stuff you're talking about, the kind of rubberized heavy match you're looking for. A channel called Car Reviews is asking me, looking to buy an electric car, should I buy a Leaf or Ioniq? Depends what you like. They both have basically the same range. We buy the 60 kilowatt Leaf, which is not out yet, but it's on the way. For range, I'd buy the Ioniq. I quite like that car. It's a nice car. It's actually just a car as well, which is quite nice. You know, it looks like a normal car. It doesn't really shout about being electric. I quite like that car. But again, Irish spec is a little bit... English spec is a bit better. The Leaf is a lovely car to drive. I find I'm quite uncomfortable in a Leaf. I do find my seat is too tall and there is no reach, which is in and out on the steering wheel, and that's really bothersome on a Leaf, I have to say. Sorry, Nissan, to be hard on you again, but that just drives me nuts, and that is there in the Hyundai. You could wait for the next version of the e-Golf, the Volkswagen ID, if you want. It's coming next year as well. We don't know that's the code name of it. We don't know the real name of it yet, but it looks to have a 400 to 500 kilometer range on it. When Volkswagen spend money on things, they tend to get it right. So they tend to just hire everybody who knows anything about anything and put them all in. Since I can't pronounce that, I don't know what the hell that says. That's not even a name. Since I would like in the future to have an electric or a PHEV. I used to call that PHEV until somebody gave out to me. I don't remember who it was. Somebody said you shouldn't call it PHEV, whatever that means. It's bad. So it's called PHEV. I normally don't do more than 20 kilometers daily, but have a garage to charge. Do you think it's still viable, or to have an electric? If you're just doing 20 kilometers a day, a PHEV is going to work fine for you. A PHEV. You could get away with buying a Generation 1 Nissan Leaf, the cheap, like $5,000 on Nissan Leaf, and there's your 20 kilometers a day. Fine. You charge the thing 20 kilometers a day. You're going to charge it maybe once a week, and that's it. So 20, 40, 60, 80, and you're kind of coming into the charge point area there of a charge. But Generation 1, buy the dirt cheap very first Generation 1 Nissan Leaf, stick it in the garage, don't worry about it, leave it there as an electric. And now see, that's not easy. How far back are we? Oh my God, I'm already over half an hour behind in the questions. I do apologise. I do try and keep up as much as I can, but I have to read out and answer questions on the fly, so it's quite hard. Remember, there's no rehearsal in this, and this is really live. It is. Subscribe for more and all that sort of crap that you're supposed to say. I don't know. I'm supposed to say that. People tell me to say these things, but I forget. I forget to say anything like that. I'm not just scrolling forward. Sorry, I'm scrolling back now, looking for your questions. I'm coming. So many millions of questions. I'm nearly there. No, I'm not. Still missing loads of Nissan NV. My God, there's so many. Brian Dowland, what did you say? Yep, that's okay. I'm still coming. I'm still scrolling backwards. Here we are. Now we're catching up myself. Apologies. Once I scroll forward, it's very hard to go back and find out where I was, because I have to remember all the things. All the questions I've already answered. Hello, says the Greek chap that I can never pronounce his name. No matter how much behind the questions are... He just asked that question. There you go. Now I'm over half an hour behind. I'm sorry. It's a pity the Kia K900 isn't here in Ireland. Kia do plan to bring on a few more. The one that's coming really fast is... the changeover for Volkswagen. Volkswagen will go all electric. They're rolling out to their dealerships currently, that the dealerships that have electric charge points, and engineers to fix electric cars, which is a big thing as well. Don't forget, we're rolling out a gigantic amount of electric cars, and we don't always have the engineers behind it to do any of the repairs, because they're pretty specialist stuff. Sean Neilbud has been watching the Grand Tour because e-tron which is the French word for third, and that is true, but it's not spelt quite the same. It depends how you pronounce it. It's actually e-tron. E-tron is how to, but it's a funny aside. Of course, being the three lads from the Top Gear range, of course, it's funny. Cobweb. Hi Bob, my issue, and of course, you know, what do you say, a homophobic thing, because I had the gay icon is the Jeep Wrangler. It is. It is. It's a gay icon. It's like saying Barbara Streisand isn't a gay icon. She is as well. Anyway, I'm not homophobic. Cowboy, which I do like Jeremy Clarkson's thing when he says I'm not homophobic. I do like watching lesbians on the internet. I thought that was really funny. It's just stupid funny, but funny. It's very lowbrow funny, but intelligent as well. Cowbob. Hi Bob, my issue at the moment is the EV market doesn't have a car big enough for me. I need an estate for my dog for weekend travels. This is definitely on the way. The problem is the sheer weight of a car versus the amount of batteries you have to put in to make the car go in the first place. So the bigger the car, the more energy physically is required to move the car. So if you want a really big car, and I've tested must be 4 or 5 years ago now, the Audi A8 hybrid, and it felt like driving a feather compared to an A8. So they never released the thing. I don't think they put it away, because they came back and came out stink about it. It was horrible. So there is an element of that coming. The Audi e-tron looks like it's going to be that kind of size. The Jaguar I-Pace is kind of that size. The Model X from Tesla is that size. But that end of the market, you're talking up to between 80 and for the Model X 250,000. Like, it's really serious money up that end of the market. But at the same time, if that's your need, if you need a car that's big, that's the only way you can go. Don't forget you can support the channel, which is all here, 155 people watching at the moment. The support for this channel has gotten lights, which I have up here in the top corner. I have the camera, the mic, the stuff. It's brilliant. It expands the channel massively. It'd be great if you could do it by super chat if you want here as well. Just click that little super chat button. PayPal, Patreon, multiple ways to do it. Or you can buy a t-shirt on Teespring if you like as well. Whatever you want to do, it's all there for you. But it'd be great to have your support, but at least subscribe. That's really all I ever ask for when I'm talking to you. Brian Dowling points out that Kona in Portuguese means the C word that I can't say on YouTube without being banned from YouTube forever. But that's exactly what it does mean. That's why it's not called a Kona in Portugal. Probably won't be called a Kona in that part of the world, in fairness, because there's just some people don't check the names of things before they go. That's happened for generations. So many car companies have called their cars things and then not realised that's something that means something totally different in a different language. Paul Hickey, I see the batteries in the new Toyota RAV4 are not lithium ion. They use the cheaper form of battery. Is the same with full electric cars will make matter a few years down the road. What's going to happen, what they're looking for, of course, is to get away from things that are really expensive. If right now everybody wanted to make an electric car and we needed batteries for all of those, lithium ion would become a very rare product because everybody would want it. Like gold becomes. Gold isn't really rare. It's only rare because we've made it rare. We've made it seem expensive. And the same applies with lithium ion. So currently they're researching ways of getting energy from a car without having to use that much lithium ion or reducing the amount that's in it in the first place. Aluminium and things are being brought in, which are much more common metals, much easier to make, much easier to control, and hence a little bit cheaper. So I don't know if it's going to really matter all that much, Paul. I think the range is going to go up from a series of aerodynamic tweaks and material tweaks. So the weight of the car it plays a massive factor in how far a car will go, and then of course what the battery is made out of and how long it holds its charge and just how physically big the battery is also plays a part. Roger Stark points out NV2000, get an NV200 cowboy. Sorry, you're right. Nissan NV is a van. There's loads of vans. Tell you what, the ones you want to look out for right now, it's China. China's going to come in and stomp all over people when it comes to electric cars. I mean it. I've seen the stuff, lads. There's things being researched in China right now. When the Chinese decide they're going to do something, they just put all of the money in it, and they don't think about safety or otherwise. They just do it. Just do it to make it happen, and then they fail. Then they make it happen again. They just keep doing it till it's right. There's a series of cars coming out of China that's going to be really interesting to see. LDV, which is run by Harris Group here in Ireland. LDV have been making electric vans for years. right? Years. And I've driven them. They're really good. Basic in a Chinese sense of the way. But like the range they say they're going to get is really good. And what they're researching right now looks really good. Raymond Gray says he's not a dealer. No, he's not a dealer. Apologies, Raymond. I don't want to tarnish you with the same brush as everybody else. Just cars are his religion. There you go. That's someone who needs help. You need the blessings of the Sunday service. Bless you, son, for you have sinned in the realm of cars. Cross says Toyota loves their NIMH batteries, much lower energy density and lifespan issues, but cheap and easily available. Lifespan issues is a scary word for me. I don't like lifespan issues. I prefer things like cars to last at least 20-30 years. Roger Starkey, Sean, great minds, yeah, that's true. Not suitable for real EV. DS says, hey Bob, looking at a new EV on the horizon. Have you seen the brand Lucid, and especially Lucid Air? Lovely looking machine. Yes, I have, and they are very, very tasty. There's a pile of electric cars. I'd say now this would probably be a very good year if you're thinking about electric cars in any way, shape or form, to pay a visit to the Geneva Motor Show. Don't go to, if you've never been to a motor show before, go to Geneva, because Geneva is a very small, compact one, and yet it can be a big place for announcements. You can find a lot of car companies who go there and they will announce their latest of everything there. But what you do is you get a good impression of the entire room very quickly, and you get to do a couple of laps of the place to see everything. You get to spend a bit of time with stuff. Paris Motor Show is, it's just so big. It's so hard to see. You miss so much because you just don't have time to see it all. But Geneva is very good. And the good thing about Geneva Airport is the best part of all is that the bloody airport is at the show. You can get off the plane and walk to the show and walk back to the plane and fly home the same day. It's phenomenal. I don't really go to car shows much anymore. Been to so many of the things. I've seen them over the years. They live stream a lot of it these days, so all I'm interested in the press release start. I know most details before I get there, so it kind of annoys me. But I wouldn't mind going to Geneva Motor Show this year, I have to say. That'd be pretty good, because I'd say there's going to be a lot of electric stuff there. It's going to be interesting. Skoda Superb or VE Passat in Infana. I don't know what that means. Skoda Superb I tend to veer towards because it's the biggest, best value of all. Eric Rochford, stop start was mentioned earlier. First thing to do when I get in the car, which is to switch it off. Doesn't make any difference in the real world. MPG is just irritating. Yeah, it is, especially if it vibrates. Have to say, Audi Q8 didn't vibrate in the least when it stop started. I never even noticed it. It really didn't. Not a shimmer. Now, as the car ages and as the service history gets a little bit poor, you'll find it will vibrate for sure. Superb and save yourself a lot of cash, and Brian Cullen. See, there you go. PHEVs are a bit pointless. All the expense of a real EV without the performance or the range. If the PHEV range suits you, you are better off buying an EV. If it doesn't, you are better off buying an efficient ICE. That's really good advice from Cross. 100% behind that one. PHEVs are very specific cars. Ultra specific, but also broad. So they give you the idea of electric cars. You think you're in one, but you're actually in a petrol car. What they are really is a way of getting around tax systems like congestion charges in the UK. They're kind of like this horrible word's going around, a compliance car. They're not really compliance cars, but they get around congestion charges. They get around to Paris banning ICE engine cars from the roads. Of course, PHEV falls under electric cars, so they let them in. So it gets around that. That's where PHEV is really good. I kind of like the Outlander. I wouldn't be a big fan of it. Now, as you see my reviews of the 530e, nice car, but as a PHEV, I found it irritating to look for this electric all the time. It drove me mad, actually. Bob, have you driven a new BMW M5? I heard it was awarded Irish Performance Car of the Year. I have. I drove it on a track in Mondello for a little bit. Didn't have it at home. How would I put this without really offending the M Ferrati people who go absolutely mental every time I go? M5 is not very good. It's alright. It's absolutely useless to you in Ireland, but it's alright. I prefer an M3 if I was going the M route. It's much more usable and a lot more fun when it's let goes. It's absolutely hilarious thing to drive when you're driving it normally. M5 is really good as a tech exercise, but I don't know. You'd want a fairly big bank balance to bother your arse with it, to be honest with you. I mean, a tyre for that yoke is like €1,500. It's crazy money. But brilliant, technologically really good. But I just think that it's a lot of money for not a lot of go. There's better, and there's more fun out there. You'd have more fun in the Volkswagen Golf GTI in Ireland. right? On the Autobahn in Germany, different story, but here, not going to really matter. Pablo says, what's your opinion on Ford Fiesta 1 litre EcoBoost? Ooh, EcoBoost got a suddenly bad name, didn't it? It was all going on fire in England. I love the Ford Fiesta. I think it's the best car that Ford has made for years, and still think it's the best car they've made for years. Nothing will put me off it. I have a problem with EcoBoost. EcoBoost, basically, it's a 1 litre engine that just strapped a sort of a supercharger turbo thing onto it. It's a complicated yoke, very small, very high tolerance, which means that it spins at 250,000 RPM to give you the power. So you get good fun. It feels like 125 PS, you're flying along the road. But actually that little turbo is spinning so hard it can't last more than 3 or 5 years. Couldn't. I don't understand even how it lasts 10 minutes, to be honest with you. I tried my best to break it. It didn't. Now, I know EcoBoost has been recalled a couple of times in the UK due to fires. Fires, funny enough, when the car is turned off after it's been driving, that the car catches fire, which means that the cooling system is not able to cool fast enough. It's hotter than the cooling system can deal with. That's what happens when you turn off your car and the fan continues to run under the bonnet for 10 minutes after you turn off the car. That's the cooling system just doing its job. I would prefer the 1. Is it a 1.2 that Ford have as well? It's not turboed. It still puts out 125 PS or something. That one, that's a better one than the EcoBoost. But I love the Fiesta. Brilliant car. Brian Cullen says, no problem, Abdullah. Sorry, they're talking amongst themselves there. So many people here today. There's 160 of you watching at this very moment. It's great to have you here. Any support you can give the channel is brilliant. If you can click the super chat button, or you can click the what's the other yacht called? PayPal or Patreon. Whatever you want to do to support the channel, make sure you click the subscribe button, whatever happens, and click the like button while you're standing there thinking about this. I know, a shout out to the people on the bus. We are streamed on at least 2 buses every Sunday. We are streamed out. So anyone, there's a bus that goes, I won't say where it's going from and to, because that just gives away who the bus driver is, but I know the bus drivers do play this Sunday service on buses, so thank you very much for listening if you're sitting on a bus. And Jim, the bus driver, who came to our last meetup, of course, I met him for the first time. He's from around here. Cab Wab says, thanks for the THD suggestions, lads. It needs to look cool to keep yourself happy, but also the car has a nice real world range. That is true. Johnny Morris says, it's the fanatical evangelical EV drivers that are responsible for the Kona EV costing 48 grand before grants, and the petrol Kona costing 22 grand. I know, I get it. People are willing to pay more for electric cars. I know the electric cars and electric systems are more expensive to make than the current ICE engines, because it involves a whole factory retooling to make batteries and electrics and fit them all in high voltage areas and things, whereas the ICE engine section, the other side of the factory, has been doing that for years, and they don't need to retool, so they're much cheaper. But 48 grand, lads. If you take away the grants, this is the scary bit for me. Everyone talks about the price. Nissan even talk about the price of their car after grants are removed. So they go, the Leaf starts at 22.5 grand. That's 5 grand off its price. The Leaf is at 30 grand. It's that's a lot of money. If you look at a Kona at 48 grand for a small 5-door SAV, maybe sports activity vehicle, maybe a 5-door hatchback. The thoughts of paying 50 grand for a 5-door hatchback when I was 20, 21, nah. 50 grand would have got me a bleeding Mercedes E-Class. Like, it's crazy money to think about it. And I know this will get cheaper over time as more and more people want it, the prices start to go down. But realistically, we have to start seriously considering why such massive discounts have to happen off of electric cars, and why the taxpayers pick up the bill for the price of these electric cars. We want to encourage people out of ICE engines, but we make the bloody electric cars so expensive that you can't get into them. I'd love to change an electric car, but I can't afford one. It's just that straightforward. If you at somebody, so you're replying to them in the messages, I'm not going to read it out. Probably best because it's in the middle of someone else's conversation. So if I read it out, I just get confused. And then once I get confused, I fall over and I can't talk anymore. So that's that. Colin Malone, whatever happened to the Apple electric cars and also Dyson? Apple just can't be arsed because they ran out of money, and it's very hard to hire people. So if you're going to make an electric car, you have to hire people who understand electrics. You have to hire people who understand cars, and both of those people right now are employed by real car companies. not by a phone company who make devices, right? So they put that on the long finger a little bit. Google was making electric car. Don't forget, Google has infinitum amount of money to put into it as well. And they seem to have kind of fallen off a cliff a little bit. See, what happened was they gave away all their information, whereas car companies were standing behind the car going, oh, look at them, telling everybody what it's all about. So car companies come out and absolutely kick their ass after a while. All the investment, all the employees who would have been working for these want to go and work for a real car company because they want to see their car actually come out and make money. That's the most important part. Shout out to another fella who I know has watched this because I got a little message from it, is David Caffrey. He's out there. I'll have one of those coffees. But my wife is making lovely coffees over in the corner over there. I made a coffee, but it's a Kenko thing. And it's crap. Will you make me one of them nice coffees? She's making nice coffees. See, I have a lovely wife. Anyway, Shamrock says, that's what a coffee, but if you do, call around. Over the lifespan of a PHEV, does it realistically work out cheaper? No. From a roll off the showroom floor till 10-12 years down the line is the second or third owner who needs to replace the batteries. That's the problem, is the battery pack in the boot. We just don't know what's going to happen to battery packs. We know we can take out individual cells and replace them if they're failing, right? We also know we can replace the entire battery pack if it fails, or if it fails to give any more performance. But it's just such a falaf thing. If an engine fails in a car, you replace the engine. Okay, and I get it, but that's so rare these days. There was a time where you made a lot of money out of replacing engines, but really it's fairly rare now that an engine actually fails. So the lifespan of a car, devaluation and stuff. My car's finished devaluing. It's 12 years old. It's never going to get any more expensive or any cheaper. It's only going to start to rise now after a while as I start to get to the point where the car becomes a classic, and it will be. It will be. My Seat Leon, 100% classic. 2006, definite classic in the future, without a shadow of a doubt. You should buy one for sure. Put it in the garage and mind it and keep it and love it. Not like my old sister side of the door being driven every day. Anyway, Johnny Morris explained a €26,000 difference between the petrol and the EV Kona. Then there is no explanation for. Well, there is. Batteries, they cost a hell of a lot more than a petrol engine. Tooling, equipment, actually kind of chassis and gearbox, and there's bits and pieces in there that are a lot different as well, but it doesn't, it's still €26,000. If I bought a petrol Kona tomorrow, I could take from the difference between the two, and 26 grand, you could go on a 6-month round the world trip first class for your whole family for the difference between the petrol Kona and electric Kona. It's a lot different. And the problem is, eventually the government is going to look at the grant system they're giving for electric cars and realising that the government, the taxpayer, is buying the electric cars for the electric car drivers currently. I'm not trying to put people off electric cars. I think it's definitely the future, but we really have to stop thinking in the short term. We really have to stop thinking about improving sales in 2019 and 2020. We should be looking at 2030 as the point. What are we going to do between now and then to make this an even market between ICE, diesel engines, petrol hybrids, diesel hybrids, PHEVs, electric cars, hydrogen cars? Where are we going to put our money? That's what's going on right now. You don't buy a car for 3 or 4 years, you buy a car for 10 years. Oh, see, real coffee. My wife made me real coffee. It's lovely, sweet. Oh, that's much better than that Kenko crap, isn't it? Nom nom. Right. I am refreshed and moving on. Dennis O'Hare, thank you very much. Why don't car companies make electric family-sized cars, as the Hyundai Kona and Kia Niro are too small? And it's true, electric cars over 50,000, you have to pay the extra 10,000 tax to the government. It just physically, they haven't figured it out yet. A lot of car companies are left on the back foot when it came to electric cars. Ergo, look at Skoda, look at a Seat, they haven't done it, and then Volkswagen only really brought out the Golf because they had to. Even Audi is kind of a couple of years behind on the old, e-tron and stuff. So there's an element of they were only dipping their toe. They were seeing how the market falls, seeing what happens next, sorting out things like Dieselgate, trying to figure out what happened there, trying to pay €6 billion in fines. So there's a lot of stuff of where they're kind of hanging on the back foot. Even Renault, who was very quick off the mark with the Renault Fluence EV, and subsequently the Zoe EV and Kangoo EV and all these other ones, even they didn't quite get the market share. They never really got going with it. Their dealers weren't, point of sale wasn't there with them as well. So there's an element of the car companies were pushing it, but the customers didn't want it. Consumers were just going for diesel. Now consumers all of a sudden want electric cars, and car companies aren't quite ready for it. So there's an element of that holding up the whole difference between the two of them. But we will, next couple of years, if I was buying an electric car, I honest to God wouldn't buy one this year. I'd wait till next year to buy one. There's so much metal coming on the market. There's so many advances in electric cars. If you look at the Nissan Leaf Generation 1 from 2010, could do 120 kilometers range. Generation now, the third one, can do 230 to 300 kilometers, and the 60 kilowatt one is coming to do closer to 500 kilometers. So every 5 years we double in our range. Just think about that for a minute. It's probably not going to happen again, but right now it's getting a bit crazy. Glad to see you back on YouTube. I never left. Just live stream wasn't here on the Sunday because I was doing actual meeting physical people in Midway belong to this live stream. It's great to have you here, lads. You're brilliant. You're brilliant to come down as well, all the way down to Midway. We'll have to do it again in the near future on a grander scale. I might change locations actually for the next one. Might do it somewhere else. Maybe Junction 14. No, Midway. And it's not Midway. Junction 14. The one out by Monstreven with the fast chargers out there as well. I might do it out there maybe for the crack. Who knows? The missus says hello, and says she's doing the spuds. Good, put on some extra spuds. I love a bit of mash. Oh, a bit of mashed spuds. Absolutely gorgeous. Don't know what we're having for dinner today. The wife is off work today, so she's cooking. I should take it for a change. I cook nearly every day at some point or another. If you don't know how to cook, lads, learn. I was taught to cook by my mother from childhood. She broke her ankle and I had to learn how to cook. And I've never forgotten it. I've never gone hungry because I've always had to make something. Hyundai is not making huge money on the Kona EV. I know they're not. I know no car company is, between taxes and charges and shipping costs and everything else. And I think that's going to get harder with Brexit as well to make any money from this sort of stuff. But realistically, we should be investing a lot of money in finding a way of making electric cars more affordable for everybody, because we are now creating this very much 2 or even 3 speed environment where you've got people at the bottom of the market who cannot get a car insured because they can't afford a car that's younger than 10 years, right? They just can't afford to get into the market. The market's not helping them in any way, shape or form. You've got people in the middle ground who do 50,000 kilometres a year. They commute from Laois to Dublin on a daily basis. 16,000 people a day leave Laois, where I live, to go to work in another county. Those people go by car. They don't. I can guarantee you don't go by bus. Or some go by train, but very few. So you've got those people who can't afford to change. They can't get finance. They can't make an electric car work for them. And then you have the top end of the market where people can afford to have 2 cars on the road, and they're able to afford to have a brand new car, maybe a petrol, maybe a hybrid, and an electric car, or they're able to afford to get straight into an electric car and it suits their environment, it suits everything for them. We created that 3-speed environment. We are not helping the person that I really try and look after, is the one who can only afford a second-hand car, bottom end of the market. They're finding it tough to get insurance. They're finding it tough to get tax. They're finding it tough to scrape it together to put enough fuel in the tank. They're the ones who actually need the electric boost, and they're the ones that aren't getting it because electric cars are too expensive. Good afternoon, Sir Paul O'Connor. Good man to have you here. Job G says, hey Bob, I'm looking at a 2-year-old Mazda 6 in the UK. Mazda 6, good engine, good car, with a 2.2 litre diesel engine. Coming across some negative comments about the engine problems. What's your thoughts on it? You spec model, love your vids. Thanks very much. Job, is it JPB or JOB? Anyway, whatever it is. D, good man, glad to have you here. That's from 2:32 p.m. So I'm nearly an hour behind in the questions. Sorry. A 2.2 litre diesel engine, very good. Bit thirsty, I found. I always thought it was a little bit thirsty. A lot to do with they're putting AdBlue in the boot. They're making the fuel tank a little bit smaller than it should be, so they're ending up with this kind of feeling of going to a petrol station the whole time to get more fuel. I don't know. I don't think the engine's had any major recalls or anything on it. It's a Mazda Sky Active, Jinbai Thai, horse and rider in one. Great car to drive, really good. The newest version of it is head and shoulders my favourite saloon car in the market today. I'd love to say it's a Skoda Superb. That would be value for money. Mazda 6 is where I am when it comes to just a car I really enjoyed having under me. It was a great car to drive. Lovely yoke. But The 2-year-old one would be a slightly different car. Looks kind of the same, but slightly different car. That 2.2 litre diesel engine shouldn't have a problem. I can't imagine having too much of a problem with it. Give it a shot. See what you like. Go by your gut. You will only, on the internet, only ever hear negative comments. You go into forums of Mazda, you go, my Mazda's broke down, my thing is broken, whatever it is. You very rarely see them. I mean, if Mazda sold 1,000 cars, you see 2 reviews that say it's crap. What about the other 998 people who bought the car? They say it's crap as well. So you never hear from them because they don't think it's crap, because they've nothing to say. It's just good. Paul Hickey says, it seems electric cars are getting there slowly, but there are too many reasons not to buy right now. Too expensive, too many compromises, too small, too little charging points. I would hold for another few years. I'd say by next year we'll have it all sorted, to be honest with you. I don't think there's too few charge points. I think there's actually too many cars going to charge points because charge points are free. So it currently doesn't cost anything in Ireland to go to a charge point and charge up. Exterior, fast charge or slow charge. If it's on the street, it's free. If it's in a hotel, it's free. Wherever it is, it's free, right? And so people are taking advantage of that. So instead of driving their ESB bills up at home, they're going to a charge point and charging up from there. And that is causing its own issues because there's so many people at a charge point trying to get these free charges that there's no room for the legitimate people who want to. Once we start to charge for electric charge on street parking or on street charging, then you'll see less people will use them and there'll be more charge points available. I drove to Galway and back from Portlaoise in the Kona and stopped for a fast charge on the way back up. Just 20 minutes, just literally 20 minutes. Went to a lovely little petrol station just outside of Galway there, and recharged the car and drove on and had no problem whatsoever. I probably could have made it home in one journey. I hadn't done it before. It would have been the first time. I had kids with me and everything, and think, God, if something happens now and I'd have to stop somewhere else and it's an emergency charge or whatever it is, and it's freaking out stuff, so I didn't want to do that. But at the moment I would wait until next year for electric cars, just because there's so much stuff coming. It's going to be a little bit weird. Andy McAfee's in the house, just in from Belfast, and have the gap before off, back up again. What did I miss? Everything. You missed it all. It's over. It's time to go home. That's it. But he did ask that nearly an hour ago. Sorry, I'm so far behind in the questions. I will stay until all the questions are answered. Relax. Still over 150 of you watching per minute. Absolutely brilliant to have you here. Click the subscribe, the bell button, whatever buttons are out there, to click them. It'd be absolutely brilliant. It'd be lovely to have you here as a regular subscriber to us. If you can support the channel in some way, financially or otherwise, get in touch with me if you've got questions. But PayPal is in there and the links in below. Patreon is there. Some of you lovely people support this channel in ways that I keep expanding. Every time I get money in, I keep spending it on equipment like lights and mics and whatever it is that's out there as well. It'd be brilliant to have you on board for that. You can use the super chat facility here on YouTube as well. That just goes into the analytics money, although YouTube do take a big chunk. But PayPal is also the way to go. I'm still trying to upgrade some computer components as well, because at the moment I edit on a Mac, but if anything happens to the Mac, I've nothing to edit with. So it occurred to me the other day that I don't actually have an editing computer. I should have a backup to what I'm doing with editing in case something happens to this and I can't get a bloody video out. Joe Lyons, here's a breakdown on electric cars sold in January by model. He's linking to the Irish EV Owners Club, who are very generous with their time. They helped me greatly over the last month with my reviews from Facebook. Asked them lots of little questions over time. It was really good. Hey, from Bundoran in County Donegal, Damien McNamara, thank you very much for joining me all the way from Donegal. Beautiful county. Been up there multiple times, but you lads got to stop doing donuts in the middle of the night on the roads. Awful trouble up there with drivers. Terrible place to go driving. Just it seems to be a culture up there. Like you go up, as soon as you go near Sligo, beyond Sligo, every T-junction, every crossroad has donuts just skeeted into the roads. I know there's very little to do in Ireland at night time. Ireland is a crap place to be at night time. If you don't drink, it's a terrible place to be. But you guys are hurting yourselves up there. Seriously. Zijingo, but it's great to have you, Damien. Hit the subscribe button. Bob, would you say that Audi or even VW are worthy of the premium over Seat on lower end of the offering? Leon, Ateca, Ibiza, Arona. Honestly, can't justify the price difference. What do you think? So there's two reasons behind the price difference. One is premium brand quality. So the brand attracts a certain level of money. So if you look, VW technically own Bugatti. So the Veyron is a £2 million car, give or take. But it actually has some Volkswagen gubbins in it. So is that worth the money over the top end Phaeton, which they used to have as well? So, there's an element of that. But a brand does carry a certain amount of weight of extra money. But there's also some extra things that go into a Volkswagen over a Seat. Different plastics, different materials used, different costs of manufacturing. Most Seats are made in Spain, where the company headquarters is, of course, just outside Barcelona. I've been there multiple times. Volkswagen's headquarters in Germany, different operating costs, different management structures, all kinds of reasons why there's a difference in price. Plus, they do compete one another, even though their offices are on different floors of Volkswagen headquarters in Liffey Valley. If you go out there, Skoda, Volkswagen, Seat, they're all around each other on the marketing thing, but they are actually competitors. They have got one managing director of the Volkswagen Group, but they have managing directors of each organisation, and they have to be responsible to them. So there is a competition level to them, and they do try and fit it into the market so they make as much money as they possibly can. The one that attracts the biggest premium, of course, is Audi. They deserve it. The luxury brand, the way they build cars, they can afford to do that. Volkswagen is the next one down. Then, of course, have Skoda and Seat that fight out between the two of them about their prices. So I still reckon that they do a very good job at what they can do price-wise. Roger Starkey, Bob, when they stop making diesel engines, you won't be able to buy a diesel. They won't stop making diesel engines. They're not going to stop. Everybody thinks this is going to happen, like they're just going to stop doing it. Do you honestly think after less than 100 years of making diesel engines, that they're just going to close factories, just close? Thousands and thousands of people just going to be fired out of work and go, nah, we don't need you anymore, we don't make diesel engines. Sure, forget it. We don't need to develop any of that. The diesel technicians are, forget about that. Sure, they don't need work on there. They'll all die anyway, sure, who cares? They'll be fine. It's not going to happen. What's going to happen is there'll be a gradual wind down into other fuels. We'll find that over the next 30, 40 years, markets will start to want less and less of petrol and diesel derivative engines. But if you look at places like Africa, which is now becoming, as a continent, becoming a global superpower, make no mistake, there are countries within Africa that bat very heavily among what Bob Geldof did in Live Aid years ago. He's a hedge fund investor now. So these countries have absolutely no interest in electrics, and yet that's where we get from the Congo. We get our lithium ion and all sorts of things are pulled out of the ground there. But they don't want electric engines. They want diesel engines, because diesel engines is easier to get. They're very, very high torque. They can tow things over long distances. They've already got petrol engines and diesel engines. They've already got the stations there to deal with it. So don't for a second think that our first world is just going to go, no more diesel, no interest whatsoever. We won't. It will continue going. Probably long after I'm dead, you'll still see diesel cars on the road. No bother. I have a Skoda Superb, as you know. I do know, Neil. Well done. And you love it. I'm glad you do. Johnny Morris, I was going to say Johnny Mathis. God, it'd be come back from the dead to ask a question. Anyway, the components are cheap in an EV. The electric motor is just a coil of copper wire and a magnet. It has an inverter and a battery, and petrol has a gearbox, engine, clutch assembly. Yeah, but all those are made. See, the problem is, you could go in. I've been in like Peugeot factories, Citroen factory. I've been in loads of car factories, and you see these great big rooms that are absolutely jam-packed full of engines, all sitting on pallets. They're already built. They're built long ago. They're sitting there for ages, and then they just use them in the cars as they come up. Electric engines, there's a lot of development costs. Battery components are now at a premium. Hard to get supply and a lot of stuff. So there's a lot of stuff that goes on around the background. You just don't notice it's happening there too. Plus, electric car buyers are much more likely to spend a lot more money on buying an electric car than they would on buying anything else. So there is a premium charge there too. The Generation 1 Nissan Leaf has a special case, serious stupid design issues, highly temperature sensitive. That's true, yeah. Elmin chemistry, cells stacked on top of each other, no pack cooling, cells and pack fry on rapid charge. That's true, yeah. That's probably why that's Generation 1 Nissan Leaf doesn't exactly attract a big premium when you're buying them second hand. Everything else is common to both. This is Johnny Morris, or still Johnny Mathis. I'll call you Johnny Mathis from now on because it's stuck in my head. Including the wiring harness and software. Software is very cheap anyway. VW have said their new EVs in 2020 will be the same price as the petrol version. That is true. That will continue. As supply improves and as the bean counter, the people who love an Excel spreadsheet, sit behind their Excel spreadsheet and work out how much these things cost, you will find that the car I'm picking up tomorrow is a Volkswagen Golf petrol. So you'll find that car today, the price will be the same price next year, because the VW Golf petrol will go up because of WLTP. The price is going to continue to rise. And so you'll find that it'll be much more expensive to buy that petrol one next year, not because the petrol got more expensive, but because of WLTP and emissions systems went up, whereas the EVs are not subject to the same emissions problems. So they emit zero, so they're going to continue to emit zero, no matter what. Don't get started. Oh, I shouldn't have said that. I know what's going to happen next. All the people, come on, the keyboard warriors now, come on, tell me all about the power stations who are turf fired and coal fired, and I'm not buying an EV until the coal firing goes away. It's still more efficient, lads. The electric put into your car is more efficient than any ICE engine, no matter how it's fueled. Cross is just changing the chemistry in the Mark 1.5 Leaf without fixing the other issues. Cut the rate of degradation by 75% on average. If you keep looking at the way the Leaf was built over years, and they kind of went wrong again with this current one. I know they had a software issue with the thing with overheat, and you fast charge it twice a day, and it couldn't cope with that kind of heat because they put in the wrong cooling system again. So there's an element of Nissan continue to make the same mistakes over and over again. Anyway, Kona has none of these problems. That is true. I charged the Kona. When I did charge the Kona, it seemed to charge very quickly. Did a brilliant job at absorbing that power. 45 kilowatt charger near my house here, and then there is a 50 kilowatt charger up towards Kilbeggan, another one that I use as well, and the one down in Galway was a 45. Galway is short of a fast charger in the city. Can I just point out to the Galway County Council, we should not build one somewhere, for God's sake, like, no fast chargers in the city that was operational anyway. I couldn't find one. And Newbridge, for God's sake, Newbridge, there's not even an on-street charge, slow or otherwise. What's wrong with you people up there? Get it sorted, for God's sake. Anyway, Barry McDonald says E300 Hybrid Estate or Outlander PHEV. E300 Hybrid Estate. Lovely car, really good, but it's a proper hybrid rather than being a PHEV you have to plug in the whole time. Outlander's a much bigger car. That's a big car, right? Big boot, big back seat, big everything. But the Mercedes will give you just a little bit nicer of a drive, but it's expensive. Big difference in price between the two of them now. Mike Connolly, charging my 2012 Passat on the next changing. Sorry, God, we're on electric. Hang on, get back to changing my 2012 Passat. In the next 3 months, really like the Audi A6, would be buying a 2015-2016 model. What do you think? Also would consider a newer Passat. You know, at that rate, I would go to Passat. Just because you'll be getting the newer version of the Passat, which has all of the DSG box, the latest version of the diesel engines. All the fixes will have been done. You get a lot of little extra bits and pieces in there in the newer Passat over a 2015-2016 A6, because the new A6 is phenomenal. That A6 you're talking about is only good in the S-Line estate. So if you're looking for an Audi A6 2015-2016, buy an S-Line. If you can get 18-inch wheels, lovely. Sometimes they're 19-inch wheels or 21-inch, which the other one, 19 will do fine. A DSG, do not buy a manual. Don't come back on here and tell me you bought a standard shift Audi A6. I'll kill you. Just buy the estate DSG one S-Line pack. You're done for that one. For Passat, just buy the newer one. It's a lovely car, really handsome looking yoke. Try not to get silver, try not to get white. Get something in between, some sort of blue colour, easier to get rid of later on. A lot of whites on the market, by the way. A lot of white cars, a lot of silver cars on the market coming up. It doesn't help with their value. Where'd you get your 75%? I don't know what that means. It's an answer to somebody else. Dub Cub 89. When talking about plural Nissan Leaf cars, can we call them leaves? Could. I just said leaves. Leaves. Nissan leaves. Multiple leaves. Cowbob, how about the Mitsubishi Outlander? Oh, sorry, someone asked. See, there's loads of conversations. The conversation is brilliant. It used to be just me trying to answer all the questions. Now people actually have conversations amongst themselves. And I'll tell you why, because we actually had a proper meet, an actual physical meet. We've had 2 of them so far. So a lot of the guys who are chatting in the comments have actually physically met each other as well. And they physically met me as well. So you can come along to one of the meets if you want to. The next one I think is going to be quite big. There's a vintage car club want to meet up as well on the same day, so they'd like to arrange something as well, which would be a whole different group of people. Could be fun. Shalbalaba Hunt. That's a great name. Anyway, Bob, thinking of buying a 141 Toyota Corolla 1.4 D4D, only 40,000 kilometers. What do you think? Good car. Corolla's a fine car. Boring, but they all are. They're made for transport reasons, and that's good. 1.4 D4D. D4D engines are a lovely car. Really good. Long lasting. They do a good job at getting on with their job. Not high torque, not high performance. They just do a good job of being on there. By Corolla, I assume you mean a saloon. The Auris was 1.4, so that's the hatchback version of it. Saloon's nice. Little bit of a tight gap for the boot lid, but you should have no problems with it. It's going to be ultra reliable. It'll work forever. 40,000 kilometers. Just get that service history checked. Make sure you get someone who knows what you're talking about. Have a look under the bonnet. Do your due diligence. Do a history check on it. Well, make sure it's not Jap import, but a UK import that has been written off category 1 or 2 or 3 or whatever. This is categorization of stuff that it's another subject that's coming up very soon about cars that are written off in the UK as category 2 or 3. But they come over here, they're repaired and put on the road. It doesn't show up in their history, so just bear that in mind. But I've no problem with Toyota Corolla. Great car. Simple car, but a great car. Darren Kavanagh. Well, horse. That's a very Irish thing to say. Well, horse. I love that. Somebody has given me money by PayPal. Thank you very much. Don't know who it is yet. It's coming there. I'm trying to. Eric Watford. Thank you very much. Eric Watford, you are so generous. Thank you very much for donating money to the Sunday service community and our cause to remain independent and free and strong, like the responsible woman that I am. Right, Darren Kavanagh. Well, horse. I just purchased a Volkswagen Golf GTI. Congratulations. Edition 40. Great car. Out of Sheehy Volkswagen. I know the lads up in Sheehy very well. They're a great bunch of people. Brilliant car. GTI is all the car you will ever need as a GTI Golf. Not only is it nice and sleepy when you just want to drive to work, when you want to actually have a bit of fun, it will do that too. And if you fancy dropping into Montello over there near Sheehy's, you can set a decent lap time with it without doing damn thing. Just put it in sport mode and turn off traction control and you'll have a ball. Actually, don't turn off traction control. Use that limited slip differential on the front and you will have a ball around Montello. I know turn 1, about 50 kilometers an hour, you'll be doing fine. Cowboy says, hi Roger Sharkey. Yeah, the sorry, we were talking about two people are talking amongst themselves. Johnny Morris. I've never heard of any EV, including Leaf, that had a 25% left on the battery. There are taxis that have 100k on them with 90% left on the battery. This was a unique situation. It was your man Bjorn, can't use his last name. He's from Sweden. He does this similar to me. He reviews cars, but he's very specialist in electric stuff. But then again, he's likely to do a 2-hour live stream while driving along some random white road weird channel. But he went off. I think he was in America. He was looking at a Nissan Leaf, only had 50% or something of its battery left, or 45% of its battery left, and he was talking about why this would be, and we were trying to figure out what the charge was. He hooked it up to the system. There's a system reader thing. I did all sorts of things. It was an interesting, he's hard to deal with. It's hard to listen to him, I find. Not very coherent somehow. But it was interesting to watch as well. That Generation 1 had problems with thermal throttling and things of whether it's being charged, not charged, how much heat it could dissipate, heat while driving at higher speeds and stuff, all sorts of stuff, problems with it. Frankie Quigley, thanks Bob. I have a Rifter automatic on order, need space, sticking around with diesel for now, anyway until EV gets bigger and more affordable. Don't worry about it, Frankie, you're going to be fine. All will be well in the world of diesel and petrol cars for the next 10 to 15 years, without a shadow of a doubt. Rifter is a good car. Actually, I tested it in Monaco early last year. And we'll be testing it again here in Ireland in the next couple of months. We're going to be doing a big road trip down to Cork. I might go down in the 508 and come back up in a Rifter. We'll see. I'll phone Peugeot and tell them what I'm looking for. They usually go yes, so it's okay. Peugeot is one of those companies, a bit like Skoda, when they ring up and go, I want to do something wild. Just go, yeah, sure, whatever you like. Cowboy, roger that, yeah, seems to be a guy in Canada, a few others. That's the one, that's the thing I'm talking about. There seems to be a guy in Canada and a few others. There is some things with thermal problems. Heat, cold is a problem. Look, what the point we're going for is we've seen the problems years ago from these Generation 1 when you have thermal issues. You got Ireland here where it's been 11 degrees since December, right through into the middle of January. Then suddenly we get a -2, -4 day and everything comes to a halt. But now today we're back up to 6-7 degrees. So it's weird how the shift in temperature happens, and batteries don't respond well to big large shifts in temperature very quick. Big Boy Bob. Now that sounds very odd to have on YouTube, but that's your username, Big Boy Bob. Bob, do you know when you're getting 3,000 subscribers in the past 2 weeks? I'm glad to see you making progress. I am. Yes, I know it's been huge. Since January, well, since kind of December-ish, it started to ramp up a little bit. Now it seems to be on a sort of a run now. It seems to be a lot more subscribers coming on. It's fantastic, and I love every one of you who has subscribed and commented and everything. I've read every comment, but to be honest with you, currently, on the day I publish a video, if I publish in the morning, by night time, I have about 200 emails. By the next day, I have a good 900 emails. Just because comments, subscribers, new subscribers, all this sort of stuff that I've turned on and off over time. But I try and read every single comment. So I keep an eye and make sure there's no arguments breaking out, which is part of it as well. But it does happen. So the amount of people, when subscribers grow, you tend to get a bit of hatred as well, because people hate you because they were trying to grow their subscribers and failed. And that happens. Hopefully we'll all grow together. That's really what I'm after. I always do collaborations and stuff. There's all kinds of ones coming up, but we'll see. That is a really brilliant username, and I'm going to read it out now in 1 second. Oh my god, no, we're still further back. Forward, we're getting there, nearly there. I'll find you again. It suddenly had one of those little lovely jump things that happens as well. This is the best username I've come across ever. You ready? Rusty Bunt. I like it. Hi Bob, it's Rory. Hi Rory. Rusty Bunt is better than Rory. Arm and Hammer baking soda will get rid of the smell. There you go. That's another one that's good as well. Baking soda, which you can find in any shop, it costs next to nothing. There's Arm and Hammer stuff as well, as you can put onto the mat that will absorb the smell. It's very like Febreze in a way, but it's like an industrial version of Febreze. So that's a good way to do it. New Ioniq on the way with a 40% bump in range. Bloody hell. What does it do? Put bigger batteries in it. Hyundai has done a really good job on powertrain and aero efficiency, second only to Tesla. If you remember, 2 years ago, I told you that Hyundai had a bottomless pit of cash and they were putting a gigantic amount of it into battery technology and into research of aerodynamics and battery technology. I got an email, a text message actually from another journalist who said that's crap. Tesla's going to merge them, and here we are 2 years later. Tesla's right up there, along with Hyundai. The two of them are competing on their range very quickly, and it will continue. Hyundai's not finished yet, but the amount of money they got and the amount of money they're making, a giant amount. They have become a very big player in the US market. Some would say they are responsible for the downfall of Volkswagen in the US market. They got in there first with all their stuff. I see Johnny Morris says the whole EV thing will blow out and wide open when Volkswagen bring out their 4 new EVs in 2020. They will be selling EV Golfs for $25,000. The Kona will be worth about $10,000 on a trade-in then. Well, we'll see. It's easy to make a promise like that until market forces come into it, until you see what a country will withstand when it comes to prices. Things can change very quickly. Neil Bissett says, as for me, going electric will wait until the manufacturers are on board. Yep, then the price will drop, simple as that. Once there's competition in the market, everything becomes price sensitive. But don't forget, the artificially supported prices right now are being supported by people who are willing to pay more to go green. They're willing to pay more to be first. They're the same people who go out and buy an iPhone 10 just because an iPhone 10 was released. They just instinctively upgrade to that iPhone. They're the same people, without considering about why they're upgrading or what's wrong with the phone they've got. It's just because it's the newest one. So there's an element of that in the market, and I've heard that. So before you all berate me thinking that person doesn't exist, I've heard that from marketing experts who are working within the car industry. That is their demographic. Just thought I'd say. Roger says 25k is optimistic for a Golf. You're right, because a Golf right now, a basic petrol Golf starts at 25k. So it'd be unlikely the electric one's going to start there. Who else is laughing that Tesla had to give away 16 million quid's worth of Roadster 2s due to the success of the referral program? Well, a lot of money there. VW is saying they will sell their EVs for the same price as the petrol versus 2020-2021. Yes, but see, WLTP is going to drive the price of the petrol version up. That's just marketing speak. If you walked in right now to Joe Duffy's up in Dublin, you could buy a 3 Series for about 35 grand. From March this year, when WLTP really starts to take effect, that'll be closer to 45 grand. Just thought I'd say that. Prices of cars are only going up. Only going up. Petrol and diesel cars will become more expensive. Northern Europe, say Sweden, Denmark, have already gone through this. So what they did to improve the amount of people who are buying electric cars, they made diesel and petrol cars seem really expensive. They put extra taxes on them and they made them sound really expensive. That's exactly what's happening to us right now. Diesel and petrol cars are going up in price. Electric cars are staying the same. So eventually they will reach the same price. So us complaining about a €49,000 electric Kona and a €22,000, 23 grand petrol one, eventually the 23 grand one will be 40 grand. So it'll be expensive. I'm not a fan of what Tesla stands for. What's Tesla stand for? Electric. We'll see. They're talking a good game. We have some good engineers, but still don't see what the battery supply is coming from, despite big money boss and the factories are not yet built. That is true. A lot of promises on tech and what they're going to do in the future, how they're going to get there. Still have to supply those batteries, lads. You still got to get hold of the batteries. That's the problem. It's not like a petrol engine is made of big lumps of metal that are formed inside of machines at high tolerances and put together in a factory. Batteries are made from things you have to mine out of the ground. Sorry, sip of that coffee, which is still slightly warm. When are electric vans going to be available? Because without them, diesel engines are going to... Electric vans are already out. They're out. Look at LDV, look at Renault, look at... who else is doing electric vans currently? Volvo. Volvo are doing electric trucks. I actually saw a Volvo. And Scania, they're doing electric trucks as well. They're on the way. They're part of the Volkswagen Group. Who else? LDV make buses, passenger buses, like 46-seater buses, electric. It's all happening, for sure. It's all happening around the edge. So don't think that you can kind of point a finger going, that's not happening. It is happening. Johnny Morris, Cross, yes, VW are building battery factories at the moment. How do you highlight the name when you respond? Just do @ and start typing the name. It'll select them off a list. But you can, if you want to, continue to talk to one another, of course. If you can, it'd be great if you could support this channel somewhere or another. PayPal, Patreon, or Super Chat right here. It'd be absolutely brilliant if you could. I'd be delighted and excited if you could. It'd be brilliant. 100, nearly 150 of you watching at any one moment. It's absolutely brilliant. Someone is going to hit price parity between ICE and EV around 23-24. That's 2023-2024. Remains as we've seen whether that's Tesla or Hyundai. My two bets: Volvo with Northvolt, VW with Daimler. I'd say, yeah, I'd say you'd be right. I'd say it probably will be Hyundai. I think Tesla's going to hit a roadblock eventually on money on Elon Musk and stuff. I think it's just coming to a halt there. Their sales are very much US side. I think Hyundai stand a really good chance of entering that market strongly. They're seen there as a big brand. Hyundai is quite a big brand over there. Hyundai they call them, but it's the same company. Roger Starsky. They said, I think the ID will be available at a price similar to the diesel Golf. Maybe cheap ID similar to the expensive Golf. True. Agent Hogan, hi Bob. I have a 151 Golf, which is a 2015 Golf SV. Window very slow to demist in the morning and has been serviced and nothing changed. Any solution? Is this the common with the SV model due to the shape of the front windscreen compared to the Golf? Did it demist very well once upon a time and now doesn't demist well anymore, or it's never demisted properly in the first place? That's the big question I have there, right? So you've got two factors going on. A technical question isn't about electric. This is deadly. Right, so you've got two things going on. One, if it's a 151, it probably wouldn't be due one yet, but there is a thing called a pollen filter. A cabin filter they're also called, right? So that's a filter within the air filter. So you have an air filter that runs the whole car. Attached to that you've got another filter called a pollen filter or a cabin filter. They can sometimes get clogged up with just driving through dust and crap. If you change the pollen filter out, that can often help with demisting the window at the front. Now if the window used to demist well once and now doesn't demist anymore, that's probably the problem, the pollen filter. If the window never demisted properly and the pollen filter is okay, then it could just be the shape of the window. Make sure you're not on recycle air. Make sure air conditioning is turned on. That's another part as well. Often people don't realise if you turn on the air conditioning, you actually heat the car faster on the inside. Make sure none of the vents are closed. That the side vents, the ones around the edge of the dashboard, the ones on the driver's side over towards the door and otherwise, that they're all free and clear of any debris and are actually open. And check that as well. But chances are it is down to your pollen filter. Just check that. Check to make sure you have one. It's a Volkswagen Golf. I have one to say it Leon, for God's sake. There is a pollen filter in there as well. So you can change them. They're not cheap to change. Pollen filters can often be 20, 30 euro to find and change. But you don't have to change them once in a while. But if you've driven through a lot of dirt and snow and crap and rain and things, it can often get sucked into the pollen filter and just blocks it up. It's just not doing the job properly. I don't know what that name is. Like I say, YouTubers run out of usernames these days. So it's like a Paul or with 94 or something or other. I love my Lexus RX NX F Sport, quiet, 35 to 40 mpg for a 2-ton SUV. Well built, reliable, suspension not as balanced as the Audi BMW equivalent. Gonna test drive the UX in a couple of weeks. Smaller NX maybe. Definitely worth a look. There's a fella called Zoo who said potato with a H at the end of it. Why are you saying potato? Is that an Irish thing? PGTMR2. I hope you have actually got an MR2. Electric car companies will fail before this happens. For what happens? Oh, you're commenting on something I said. God knows what I'm after saying. That was 3 o'clock today, for God's sake. I'm 15 minutes behind me on questions. Who knows what I said at this stage? Gonads 1259. God, you lads scraped the bottom of the barrel with these names. Hi Bob. Lots of people think EVs will come down in price as the more are sold. I don't. I think manufacturers want to keep the price high so they get more profit per car sold. What do you think? You're right and wrong. I think they will eventually make cheaper cars, but not cheaper EV components. I think that you can make the car cheaper, taking out heated seats. I mean, look at the budget cars. Look at the Dacia Duster, right? So you can get that thing for like 17 grand, dirt cheap one at the very bottom end of the range. You might even be able to get a little bit cheaper than that. I'm not sure. Look at the Dacia Sandero. They operate in that level. Now, if you were to take their chassis and convert that to run as an electric car, would that make that a 40 grand car? No, not really. It's the components in it that are making it. You could make that car a 25 grand car if you took a 17 grand car made electric. Now, I know there's a couple of companies that are converting petrol and diesel engine cars to run electric. That's interesting. A couple of Dutch ones. There's a lot of guys in the US doing it. Very hard to get all the components in the right place, but it is possible to do it. So I'd be interested to find out how much that is. What is the difference between the two of those? Because that would tell us where electric cars are going and why their costs are bleeding much. Sean McCabe says, what would you say is the worst car you've ever driven? For me personally, I'd say it was a Nissan Tiida. Nissan Tiida is the most desperately ugly car I've ever seen in my life. It brings out a level of hatred in me like no other car has. But there is another one. And you're going to have to, even thinking of it now, because I was in the back of it as a bleeding taxi. It's a SsangYong Rodius. Honestly, I would rather have some form of sexual disease than have one of those cars. But it's very close to Nissan Tiida in that respect. Both of them are gone now, really. I mean, the Rodius still sells for SsangYong in the world, but in this country, oh man, if I see a Rodius coming, very affordable. They fit 7 people in them. There's tons of room in them. They're very clever in their own little right, but God almighty, the look of the thing. It's like a designer was held at gunpoint who used to design cars as a 9-year-old and now was asked as a 50-year-old to draw something, and that's what he draws. Little tiny wheels on a great big body. Dreadful car. Nissan Tiida would be up there as well. Not because there's anything particularly wrong with the engine or the gearbox or the Nissan bits of it. It's just an awful thing to be around. Terrible. I'd love to buy one and crash it into stuff. I tell you what, hit the super chat button or the PayPal button and throw some money towards me, and I'll spend it on buying a Nissan Tiida, and I'll take a sledgehammer to it or drive it off a cliff or something, just for the crack of it, right? Just to watch that thing burn. Cross says, Hyundai have a natural advantage with 2 of the big 5 battery manufacturers, Samsung SDI and LG Chem, and ST Innovations on their doorstep. Korean government is encouraging them to work together. Of course they are. Yeah. Korea's a superpower, lads. South Korea particularly is a massive world superpower protected by the US for being a superpower. So don't make any mistake to think that Hyundai are a small Korean company. They are a powerhouse of money over there. They're swamping in it. MG EV in the UK later on this year. That'll be funny. It seems if they struggle to make a petrol powered car be anything other than an old MG with old parts used, so the EV version should be a laugh a minute. I've never had any contact with MG, sorry. I've driven the other MG that came to Ireland. I was in Belfast one time, and a random stranger came up to me and said he loved the videos. He drives an MG. Do I want to spin? I went, yeah, sure, why not? Might as well have a little go. So I did. I have to shout out to, there's a group of guys I met the other day, school kids, lads who are in secondary school, they're like 17 years old. I met them in Junction 14. I was going in to get a bottle of water. 2 of them recognised me, 12 or 15 and came running over, and I did this selfie thing. It was great crack. We nearly closed Junction 14 to take a selfie. It was so funny. It was great crack, but thank you very much. I think it was a school, I forget the name of the school, Breed. They were all dressed in blue. I don't know. Whatever their names was, thank you very much. Hopefully you're watching now. Send me an email or a thumbs up or something. I'll remember what you are. Where are we? D. Woodhouse. Hi, Bob. Am I mental? Don't know. Did you get tested recently, or is it just like one of them dark days you're having? I have to look for a reliable and sensible diesel to commute to a new job, so I'm looking at Alfa Romeo GTs. You're looking at Alfa Romeo GTs as a reliable and sensible diesel? I don't think so, somehow. Alfa Romeo GT is lovely. I don't think it aged very well. I think it will come back around in the cycle as being a beautiful car again. But the GT was a beautiful car when it came out. It was a remarkable looking thing when it came out. Now it looks a bit weird. If I was buying an Alfa to collect, I would buy an Alfa 157 3.2 litre V6 petrol estate. There you go. Done. That's the car I'd collect. Alfa Romeo GT I wouldn't necessarily collect. Nice car. Buy a Brera if you're looking for a diesel one. It's a little bit better of a commuter car. Particularly if you're just commuting on your own, it's got 2 doors inside. It's fine. Work of art as well. Alfa Romeo make good cars, really good cars. Not necessarily cars that live very long, but good cars. I'd love to see what happens next with that. But if you're looking for a sensible, reliable diesel, just buy whatever the cheapest diesel is you can find that passes the NCT and have it checked. Buy the thing. Spend no more than $5,000 on a commuter's car. That's the way I tend to be. If I was getting a commuter's car now, I would buy it outright. I wouldn't even consider financing any part of that car. Commuter car is designed to get you from A to B back to A. That's all you have to do with it. Don't be thinking you need something that's happy to be driving. You could buy a $5,000 crap diesel yoke, drive it to bits for 2 years, and have a decent little thing sitting at home for next to nothing. Roger Stark says, check out AVEVA for Chinese vans, sprinters, chassis, and batteries, and super cap pack for double range. That's what I'm telling you. If you're watching the EV market right now, keep an eye on what China's doing. They are slowly. China doesn't invade anybody. They economically buy things. So they buy big parts of countries and then just build factories there. That's what they do. And anyone who even looks like they remotely make batteries, they'll just buy the company. Alin Dimitru. Hey Bob, thanks for these lovely Sunday talks. No problem. Question: should I go for a D2 116 horsepower diesel on a 2014 Volvo S60, or it's too small for the way it tanks? Yeah, it is. S60's a big car. I know you can do all kinds of things with torque vectoring and chassis control and all that sort of to make it feel like it's going well. But 116 horsepower on a D2 on an S60 is a big car. You know, I prefer to see a D2 engine on a V40. If you're looking for Volvo, although I don't really like the V40 anymore, it didn't age well at all. But the S60 is quite a bigger car. If you get the bigger engine or bigger horsepower, at least get the bigger horsepower, it'd be much better. D4, you know, you could go. Is there a T8 yet of a S60? I'd like to see that happening. Who was that now? Fraggle Duff has some. Thank you very much. Here's something towards the Nissan Tida. Kill it! I love it. Fraggle Duff has put in €10 into the pot to buy a Nissan Tida so I can destroy it. I love that thought. Man, I probably had to get a Tida for a tenner at this stage. Surely I must have had an effect on the sales of a Tida in this country, but the amount of times that I've given out about it. I'd love that. Terry Owens, Bob, can you explain a mild hybrid? Nah, not really. There's a lot of crap, to be honest. It's smaky, airy, fairy. Mild hybrid means the car recharges a 12 volt thing that runs the lights and stuff inside the car. It's not really a hybrid. It doesn't really add to the drivetrain of the car. It means that anything that the petrol engine or diesel engine is not running is run by the 12 volt battery. It's a marketing speak yoke, and I don't really mention it in the videos when I'm driving one myself. I think they're a lot of codology, to be honest with you. You're either in a hybrid that's electrically powered, so it's actually driving the car, or you're in an all-electric car that is actually driving the car, or you're in a PHEV that you plug in. It's a hybrid that you plug in. That's the only three out there to worry about. Mild hybrid is a meaningless marketing speak, and shouldn't really come into your thoughts too much. It doesn't do much. Roger Starkey says Evo Boost heads crack, dump coolant cause. That's EcoBoost heads crack, dump coolant cause fires. There you go. That's a sum up from Roger Sharkey on the state of the EcoBoost engine for Ford. Congratulations, Ford. You have made another enemy. Bob, what alternative fuel would you design? If hydrogen was a proper option, and it's not enough investment, I think in maybe 10 years time, I think hydrogen will become a better option. It's just not much investment went into it over the last few years, so it's always kind of lagged behind everybody else. Same as electric, the system is already there for electric. It's already in there. The problem is people need to make money from it, and that's slowing it down, and not all the components are in the right place. Your kids will learn about this time in history in their history class in the future as being a time of massive upheaval in every sense. We are upheaval every direction at the moment, but I'd love to see hydrogen actually come to fruition, whether it be through a battery pack system where the hydrogen is charging a battery pack that runs the device, or that we have a direct petrol competitor to hydrogen. Just right now hydrogen is not very efficient, but I think hydrogen will be the great way to go. It's a perfect instantaneous replacement for petrol and diesel, if the efficiencies were there, but they're not, and that would be where I would invest my money in right now, is hydrogen technology. The butcher says, looking at cars for my mother and noticed that loads 9. What loads 9? Oh, the SsangYong thing. Oh my god, don't mention SsangYong. And I love SsangYong, make really good cars. Just that one is an absolute disaster of a yoke. And they make good cars. The Rexton's actually not a bad car, as is the other one that I forget the name of. Anyway, Matthew Todd. Hi Bob, I have a Hyundai Ioniq Hybrid, which I love. I'm on 4-year lease because it works out a lot more efficient for all the miles I do. My question about MPG. The forums are saying ... Oh my god, there's a second half to that question somewhere, it's gone. You don't get your full MPG until you've done at least 10,000 miles breaking in. Is that true? And how much does it cost to improve? No, that's not true. Not really. Cars settled in. So there used to be a point one time where you ran in an engine. This was something that happened all the time. So what happens is, for the first 500 miles or more, you would try to keep the revs down. You would let the car bed in. It would allow the cylinder heads and stuff to kind of find their home inside the engine. Everything would scuff together and get used to each other. The car would run a bit more smooth if you gave it time to bed in. You still do it with modern cars, but it's certainly not 10,000 miles or even 1,000 miles for that matter. You don't break in a car over 10,000 miles. Battery engines run efficiently from the moment they're bought. There's no bedding in, there's no running in or anything else from a battery engine. So from the hybrid section of that car, you shouldn't have any problems. If after 1,000 kilometers you're not getting the MPG, either you're driving it incorrectly or there's actually something wrong with the car in the first place. Chances are it's down to the way you drive. Everything is down to the way you drive. I can get about 6 litres per 100 kilometres out of my 12-year-old Seat Leon if I drive it properly. If I drive it the way I normally drive it, I get about 8 litres per 100 kilometres. So that's a massive difference. That's the difference between 25 miles to the gallon and 45 miles to the gallon. So it's a big difference between the two. Just remember that. Roger Stark said, Bob, in 10-12 years batteries will be 25% the price and double the power density. I'd love to believe you. I don't always believe those things. What if you can predict that now, why isn't that happening right now? Why don't we have it? If you're able to sit down and go, well, in 10 years time we're going to have phones that'll last 3 weeks. 15 years ago I had a phone that lasts 3 weeks. So what happened in between the two? Consumption always goes up. Anyway, Jerry Reynolds. Hi Bob, keep up the good show. Jerry, big fan from Drumshambo in County Leitrim. Good place, been there, lovely. Will the diesel car drop in value down the road? All cars drop in value down the road over time. Every car depreciates to a point until it becomes a collector's item, and then it starts to go back up the other way. So cars will always devalue at their rate. I don't think they're going to devalue any more than they would before. It depends how far down the road you want to go. 20 years? Yeah, very hard to predict the next 20 years. For the next 10 years? No. If you look at the market today, last year, electric cars were 1.1% of the market. Now they're 0.25% of the market. Very small still. You still have a dominance of diesel in this country and in England. You still have a dominance of petrol in the country. It's happening that way as well. Hybrids are on the climb. Electric cars are on the way, but they're not here. You're still looking at 5 to 10 years before they become a regular occurrence that you see your neighbour has one, your neighbour's neighbour has one, everyone has one. That won't happen until all the car companies have an electric car in the market. That's what's going to happen there. Your diesel is safe and sound for another 10 years. Well, I don't mean safe and sound. It'll still devalue. It's not going to hold its value forever. But a car is a car. Gonads has come back and said, my son used to be a salesman with Renault dealership and said he got absolutely no training for the Zoe on sale leads. I've heard that from other sales staff as well. No training for the Zoe, no training for the Renault ZE. That's not necessarily down to Renault. It's actually down to dealership. Dealerships have to pay for training. So in a car company, when you hire a new technician inside a dealership, they send them away for training, but the dealer actually foots the bill for that. So it can be quite expensive to get that training done. What you really need is engineers and mechanics. It's the mechanic is the problem, of the one that can actually fix an electric car. An ordinary mechanic can do the brakes and suspension stuff. That's fairly standard. But you're dealing with very, very highly charged electric components within the car. That's dangerous, guys. Dangerous stuff. If it goes wrong, if an idiot gets out and cuts a cable or something. Looking at a car for my mother, noticed that loads of dealerships, even main dealers, are selling fresh second-hand UK cars that have to be registered. The spec name gives them away. We'll be buying up north. Just do a history check, please. Wherever you buy them, make sure you do a history check. Make sure you do a detailed history check. There are category 1, 2 and 3 write-offs coming into this country and for sale in the UK. There are category problems with cars. There are cars that are coming in that are EU1, EU2, EU3 compliant that are filthy yokes, emitting blue and black and grey smoke under heavy pressure. Please be aware that a UK dealership will sell you a car because he knows he'll never see you again. You go to Manchester, you walk up to a dealership and you go, I want that car, that's a lovely car there, yeah. He goes, I have a better one round the back, and you get the one that's round the back. It's EU3. It fails NCTs 2 weeks after you get here. What happens? Do you think he's going to give your money back? No. So if you're going, wherever you're going to buy a car, please be aware that there are a lot of cars out there that are just dangerous for you to be owning. Stupid. They will be worth nothing to you in the future. You will have to get rid of them at some point or another. Dealerships are at this too in Ireland. You're not alone. I do take your consumer side, but dealers here, at least, they're bricks and mortar buildings. They're going nowhere. You can come and ask me, and I can deal with these guys as well. So there's all kinds of things, advantages to buying in Ireland. But if needs must, and you can get a better deal up the north, and you can get the car you want, it's going to hold on to it for a while, then okay, that's up to the dealership to compete. Jim brought along, hiya Robert, says James Dunn. Thanks James Dunn for being here. Jim brought along a VRS Combi last week. One thing I noticed last week, and when I seen it on the stream last week, was Jim's Combi, he took off the front of it and actually sprayed a little piece of beading around the outside, which gives it a little red chin strap. Very clever. But he did it himself. It's really good. Mohammed Lone says, hi Bob, moving from the UK to Dublin for 2 years. Congratulations, well done. Hope you have a great time here. We're actually a very friendly people. No problem at all. Family home still in the UK. Would be imperative for me to re-register my car in Ireland. If you want to tax and insure it in Ireland, the problem is if you insure it in Ireland, you have to have it registered in Ireland. If your insurance is in the UK, you can drive here, I think, for 6 months before you have to re-register the car. So if your tax insurance comes from that side and your car is registered originally in the UK and you've got an address in the UK, then you can drive it here for at least 6 months. But please note, you will be stopped quite regularly by the Gardaí here in Ireland to ask about importing the car. So you should be able to get away with it for 6 months, but after 6 months you will have to register it here in Ireland. You will have to pay VRT. The benefit of that for you is if you go home after 2 years and you take the car with you, you can claim the VRT back as an export. So congratulations, you don't really have to pay the VRT, it'll just be a loan for a bit. You get it back. Stuart Moss, Bob, Ireland voted out Brexit. They still had a second vote. Till they had a second vote. What? We have nothing to do with Brexit. Brexit's the UK thing. It's their problem. It's your problem if you're from the UK. We didn't create it. It's your issue. Ireland has nothing to do with it. And by the way, that's not the Irish border up there. That's the English border between us and Northern Ireland. They made the border. We didn't. And the next question down is Zoo. What do you think about the future of the border between Northern Ireland and Southern Ireland? Lads, I'm old enough to remember the original physical border between Northern Ireland and Southern Ireland. I went on holidays as a very young chap with a girlfriend of mine. I think I was 17, if I remember correctly. I was young, 16 or 17. We went to Scotland for 2 weeks. I had my father's sister lived in Scotland, in Glasgow. And we took the train from Connolly Station to Belfast. The train was pulled over at the border and a man got on with a dog and he walked all the way down. He's asking, "Does your bag now?" It was very threatening, barbed wire and stuff. And then we went to Belfast, and to get from one side of Belfast to, I think it's called, what's the place called? You get the ferry? Is it Stranraer or somewhere? Wherever you get the ferry, we'd take a bus across Northern Ireland, across Belfast. And that was stopped and searched. We had to go through all the checkpoints with the gates opening. It was very dystopian. I mean, like Half-Life 2, you know the game Half-Life and Half-Life 2, where you go through all those big gates with barbed wires on the top and lights shining and dogs and barking dogs and British soldiers and the whole, it was all there. It was very threatening to get to Scotland. It was awful. We were told at the time to go over to Holyhead and take a train from Holyhead to Scotland would be much better, much easier. But it was much cheaper to go through Belfast. It was awful. We never want to see that again. I guarantee there isn't a single person on the island of Ireland that wants to see that back. To have a border like that again would be absolutely catastrophic for this entire island, but also for the whole of the UK. It would mean all kinds of problems would be brought in here in a way that you would never expect it to happen. The amount of goodwill and free trade we have going back and forward. I drove to Raleigh School Ireland from Portlaoise here a few weeks back. I drove straight up to the centre of the country, up through Mullingar, off over, across the border, maybe 15 times to get to Raleigh School. Literally, just cross the border, back and forward, back and forward. So many roads that we use now every day. They were all closed once upon a time. It's a tragic thing. It needs to stop. We need to stop thinking about it. We need to stop worrying about it. What I predict is going to happen with Brexit is next month, Theresa May is going to ask for a delay on the decision to leave. She's going to ask for a 2-year delay. Maybe she won't ask for 2 years. Maybe she just ask for a delay and they'll just push it out for 2 years. After 2 years, what will really happen is she will be unelected. She will be dumped out, and they'll put Corbyn in or put someone else in, and he'll go, "Oh, we didn't really mean to have Brexit. We'd like to call another vote for Brexit," and the people of England will come along and they will vote back into Europe, and it'll all go back to normal as if it never happened. The tragic part will be a border between Ireland, Southern and Northern Ireland. We'd miss our Northern Ireland buddies up there. Even the nasty ones. Brian Dowling, what's needed for the Renault EV tech to be passed to Dacia? I think it would fly out of showrooms. Too expensive, Brian. Too expensive for Dacia to take that on. That would be really, really expensive for them to do. They do budget cars, really budget cars, and they fill that market incredibly well. They make really good, well-built cars, well-researched parts, good touchscreens, nice, comfy outfits. They're not the greatest thing to drive. They're not the heaviest, most expensive diesel engines. They're sort of cast off from Renault and Nissan. The tech works. They're fairly reliable. They do well. They don't want to have electric cars. It's too expensive. Give them 5 years before they go near the thing, I reckon. Fluent Cross says second-hand EVs won't be available unless those of us who can buy new. That's why 2013 EVs have gone up in price every year for the last 2 years. Just not enough are bought into new to meet demand. That is true. We'll wait till demand gets there. Eventually demand is there now. People are searching on adverts and Dundee and Carzone and Cars Ireland and all these places looking for cars, and unfortunately they don't have enough cars to fill the gap. That's what happens. James Dunn just had roast stuffed pork, potatoes, carrots, broccoli and a dose of gravy while watching Sunday service. No better way to spend a Sunday afternoon. Regards, Jim the bus driver. Your man Jim, he's dropped in after having his dinner. We met. Did you know we have a midway meet where Jim the bus driver actually came down? He's a really nice chap, and he met my daughter as well, who was also there. Roger Starkey, cheaper EVs, build factories, build numbers, build batteries, all expensive, then economy scale makes it cheaper. Not quite that straightforward. The problem is building batteries is fairly straightforward. Getting the components to build the batteries when everybody wants them is the problem with supply then. We're still 5 years away from decent supply, I reckon. That'll get us all the way there. Remember, if you're putting an at on someone, I'm assuming you're not talking to me, so I don't read it. Paul O'Connor, anyone looking to purchase a car, new or used, I can recommend the Skoda Superb. On my second L&K version, decided to keep for another year or two rather than get a Tesla. You're getting a Tesla. I think electric range will significantly improve over the next 2 years. Don't know about range. I think the amount of cars you can buy, but I think the golden number we're looking for, the golden number, and this is like the Willy Wonka ticket, is 600 kilometers. Once we're there, we're competing with petrol directly. 600 kilometers. If I went out and bought a Seat Me 1 litre petrol today, I could probably do 600 kilometers in it easily. So if an electric car can do that, I think it can easily compete there straight away. Easy peasy. Millions of questions still coming, and I'm literally 15 minutes overdue. So if you're listening to this on a podcast, God love you, keep running. Keep going, because I know lots of you listen to this as a run companion, and I know the feeling. I don't listen to myself when I'm running, but I know the feeling. I do listen to podcasts. I listen to Adam Buxton when he's on. Sometimes some of his guests are a bit crap lately. I listen to Richard Herring, Rilla Histapa. Everybody out there, whoever watched or listened to Rilla Histapa, just went Rilla Histapa, because that's part of the deal in there as well. You can't economically convert diesel to LPG. No, but you can buy an old LPG car. Actually, find an LPG at a bleeding station is quite hard these days. It's really hard to get to. There's a company called Tesla Loop who run a fleet of Teslas with silly high mileage, 240,000 to 400,000 plus. I have a couple of vids on YouTube, quite interesting. There's lots of them on YouTube. LPG gives less miles per gallon compared to diesel and petrol. LPG has a fuel is dead. Unfortunately, our government doesn't think so. If you look at the last budget, they actually gave a bonus to anyone willing to put more LPG stations into their petrol stations. Don't ask. Johnny Morris, great channel, Bob. When I was a kid, we didn't have a central heating, telly, or a fridge. Amazing technology, the internet. That's true. Let's tell you, that's the same. We didn't have central heating in our house when I was a kid. It used to freeze to death. We had metal windows that didn't close properly, and they had single panes of glass. Because I remember breaking one and having to replace it myself as a child. I replaced the fucking window in the house. I was only 14, I think. 13 or 14, and I replaced the window in the house with putty. You buy putty and you buy a pane of glass up to town, you carried it down a pair of towels, put it up against the window, chipped out all the old putty, put the glass in and put the putty all around the edge. It's great. I remember doing these as a kid, and here I am as an adult later, and I complain about how cold it is when I have double glazing in my house and central heating everywhere. Weird how times change, lads. LPG is a waste of time and money, an absolute mystery why Dublin buses got suckered into LPG at a time when bus fleets are far and away from Peru are moving to electric. This is true, and I noticed that Dublin bus put in an order for how many diesel engined buses just before the budget? 40 new diesel buses or something just before the budget. Anyway, the Enviro 400 buses from Alexander Dennis are even available as an EV. Yes, and I was in Harris up in Dublin. They have a fleet of 44-seater to 70-seater buses that are all available electric, and they can't find a home for them. Nobody wants to take them. They all want diesel engines, just the way it is. Kyle Menzies. Have you got to do with Menzies company in the UK that I see everywhere? I can't remember what to do. Don't they do newsagents or something? What do you think about the long-term reliability of electric cars? I have a feeling that after 10 years the batteries will die and the range will drop like mad. I don't know is the big answer for that question. Physical reliability, there's a lot less moving parts. When there's less moving parts, you get more reliability. That's how life works. That's how anything works in life. If there's no moving parts, the thing tends to last forever, whatever it is. The problem is with electric, and I hear everybody talk about this. Here's same Bobby Llewellyn's channel, same thing, and they're talking about how a battery degrades over time. How over 10 years you lose a certain amount of life of the battery, and I get it. I understand how that could happen. I don't want to have to replace a battery in my electric car in 10 years' time. the whole battery. It could be prohibitively expensive. Plus, I want to know what happens to recycle the batteries. It goes on to another life, then gets recycled, and where? So there is an element of that in the future. Now, diesel engines, petrol engines don't tend to suffer from that problem. They do degrade over time. They do get worse, but they tend to last forever. They don't tend to, range doesn't really change a whole lot on them, and it doesn't really cost a lot to maintain them. So we don't know, or I don't know is the answer to that. We don't have to tell in the next 10 years. Kyle, thank you very much. Great channel. You're very kind. Cross says he's 180,000 kilometres on his i3. I've seen his i3. I was in the boot of his i3 actually. 300,000 kilometres across multiple EVs. They're much more reliable and resilient than combustion. He's right, for sure. If you're a high mileage person, over time they seem to last forever. But over 10 years, I don't know. It's very hard to say. We're really at the point of the iceberg now where we're only starting to see generation 1 Nissan Leaf get to the 10-year-old mark, and that had its own problems when it started out. Technology is very different now, so that's a problem. JP Delvin says, just think, someone looked at a Tida or a Rodius and then thought, I'll spend my money on that. I know. Somebody literally stood back and went, I like the look of that Tida. Isn't that a lovely car? Can you imagine standing in a dealership? Can you imagine standing in a Nissan dealership and you're looking at the Almera, the Primera, the Micra, all the rest of it, and you pick a Tida out of that list? It's like, what's wrong with you? Are you blind? Should you have a license? Buy something old VW Group with a 1.9 TDI like a Mark 4 Golf or Mark 1 Leon. Yep, great cars. They last a long time. Flying through some other questions. They're all talking about themselves. This is great. These new cars with TSR traffic sign recognition. Used it going to Dublin. Set my CC to TSR mode. Most junctions we passed, it picked up the speed limit and slip road and showed my car on the motorway. That is correct. I've used that. Now, there is a little issue. When you're coming down a motorway, sometimes it detects the speed of the off-ramp. That happens here in Portlaoise, particularly junction 14. There's an 80 kilometre an hour zone up the ramp, and my little Volkswagen or Audi flying by will go on 120 and then suddenly sees 80 up the slip ramp and just slows down. So it's not perfect, but it's not bad either. In my opinion, hydrogen is perfect for heavy trucks, trains, ships, but not for cars. Really, we've got to be looking at ships these days. Ships, ferry ships, cruise ships, transport ships of all kinds. They burn millions of gallons of diesel in one journey. So it can be a huge burden on the CO2 emissions and things just from the shipping out there. So think about that for a minute, right? Shipping. Everything we get in this country of Ireland comes here in a ship or a plane. There is no other way. It doesn't swim here. It's not brought here on a road. There's no roads off this island, lads. That's really helpful to know. Cheers, Bob. No problem, Mohammed. Atletico Mints. I'm zooming through some of the questions because we're so far over the time now. I have to get there eventually. Andy McAfee is going back to work. Roll on 11 o'clock tonight. Have a good remaining Sunday service. Thanks, Andy McAfee, for dropping in. You're so kind. Dara Joyce, when do you think vans will go electric, transit, custom transporter size? Today. They should be today. Transporter will be definitely the next one. Ford are way behind on electric research, but they have guaranteed a certain amount of money in the US to research electrics and make electric happen. They could easily buy the tech from someone else. Of course they could, but Ford tend to try and do their own thing. Volkswagen will be using their Volkswagen Group cars to try and figure out how to do electric in their vans. They've already announced a California electric, the van, which means the transport electric will be right behind that. Just making it work. Nissan have been doing electric cars or electric vans for a good while now. The NV200 and there's a couple of others. LDV have been doing electric vans for a good while now as well. So they're in there. It's definitely coming. It's definitely going to happen. The problem is range usually and working environment. I know guys who drive transit vans. They're in them all day. I mean, all day the thing is pounding up and down motorways, zooming along everywhere. It's never off the road. Electric can't handle that just yet. Have you driven a 2016 Porsche Panamera hybrid? It seems to be an extreme example of a PHEV. I have driven a Porsche Panamera, not the hybrid one. I've driven a Panamera, and I've driven the what's the other one? The Cayman? No, not Cayman. The Jeep, whatever that thing is called. It's hard to remember the names this time of the day, but Porsche are investing a lot of money in their electric brand. They're actually investing money in a hybrid, or not hybrid, an electric charger unit that can do 120 or 150 or something kilowatt charge, which would charge a normal car in like 5 minutes. So they're investing a lot of money in their electric. So Porsche are on the way for sure. Sean and Neilbud, batteries cost $100 per kilowatt. A 100 kilowatt pack costs $10,000. However, the price continues to drop. In 10 years, you'll be able to pick up a pony up for $10,000 and replace it with your knackered 100 kilowatt pack for a new 200 kilowatt pack. That'd be nice if that was true. Nick Harding, hi Bob. Once you started watching today, subscribe, Nick. Apologies, as already asked, but from your EV series, with your own money, what would you buy? An e-Golf. Because if it suit I could make that range work. For sure, our own Leon here just does 4,000 or 5,000 kilometers a year, so an e-Golf would work perfectly. You do get 5 seats, you do get a big boot, you do get all the normal stuff that Volkswagen are really good at. The Golf will never really lose any money because it's just a Golf electric, right? And you do get all the good kit like heated seats and a heated steering wheel and active cruise control. You get all that stuff in the e-Golf. Problem is, it's 45 grand starting out. It's 10 grand off that or so for the grants and things that are on it. But definitely e-Golf for me, because I can make that range work. If your range is too far, you're unfortunately kind of stuck with the Niro, the forthcoming Niro, the Hyundai Kona EV, or the new 60 kilowatt Leaf, which we hear later on in the year. They're your only choices for the higher range. But in the range, VW Golf makes an awful lot of sense for sure. Hi Bob, love the channel. Is it worth getting a BMW 330e or going full electric like the e-Niro? Go full electric. If you can make a PHEV really work for you, if your normal commute is 15 or 30 kilometers back and forward every day, go electric. Buy anything electric. Buy even a second-hand electric car. It'll work for you 100%. Then you can have an M3 sitting out the back somewhere if you really want, and you've got this commuter car that does the work every day. It costs you nothing to run on a daily basis, but you have something tasty at the back as well. And I'm talking about an old M3, not about a new one. But it's that kind of range. I think a PHEV is for very specific people who regularly go way beyond what an electric car can do, but still want to have backup of a petrol engine. But most people who can afford a PHEV and get the best from a PHEV should just be electric. That's simple as that. It's not that hard to figure out. I'm delighted you've come along today. I think I've answered nearly everybody's questions. We are at least a half an hour over. I was 2.5 hours and you're still all here. Like, everybody's landed. Hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon. If you can support the channel in some way, financially or otherwise, there are links to everything down below, including Patreon, PayPal. With Patreon is drip feed, PayPal, which you can just put in a single amount of money if you want. There is super chat right here, but of course that goes away as soon as the stream ends. I'm delighted to have you aboard for all of these days out. It's been absolutely brilliant. More will happen over on our Facebook page. You want to go over there and have a look at that. It'd be brilliant to have you here every single week. I'd love to have you aboard at all times, so hit the subscribe button at the very least. Hopefully you will join me for our next video, which is the Audi Q8, and then there'll be another rake of videos coming after. There's about hundreds of them coming this year, and over 700 to watch back again. So hopefully you've enjoyed today's Sunday service. I am back again next Sunday live right here, so set your alarm clocks, set your reminders, whatever you have to do. But until the next time, I will see you on the farm.